The story opens with a painful memory. Jiro Azuma recalls being ostracized for his unique ability to talk to animals, which others found creepy and unnatural. The sight of his broken phone suggests he just got into another fight, a recurring problem in his life. In a flashback, a younger Jiro sits with his white dog, Nachi. Confused and hurt by the world's judgment, he doesn't understand why he's different. Nachi comforts him, wisely stating that not being normal is amazing, because it means there are things only Jiro can do. It's a promise he doesn't yet understand, but will one day. The scene shifts to the present day, with a gritty, monochrome tone. A group of delinquents are trying to assert their dominance, but they've picked the wrong person. The now older Jiro Azuma faces them, unimpressed and utterly bored by their threats. Enraged by Jiro's disrespect, the leader of the thugs lunges forward to attack. But in a split second, Jiro vanishes, leaving the delinquent stunned and confused. Before the thug can even process what happened, Jiro reappears behind him, launching a powerful kick that sends the thug flying into the water with a huge splash. Jiro coolly stands over the scene, identifying his evasive maneuver as the cicada shell technique. The remaining thugs are shocked, realizing they're not dealing with an ordinary brawler, but a trained ninja. With a cocky grin, Jiro taunts the remaining delinquents, telling them they seem like they need a handicap. Infuriated by his arrogance, one of them charges forward, ready to fight. A person Jiro just saved exclaims in gratitude. However, Jiro simply mutters that they're good-for-nothing trash, watching them walk away with a look of disdain. It's revealed that Jiro wasn't just defending people. A cat and a crow, his friends, thank him. They explain that the thugs have been terrorizing them, throwing trash and even shooting bottle rockets at them. As Jiro walks away, the animals express their concern, worrying the thugs might seek revenge. Jiro, maintaining his tough exterior, simply tells the crow he's used to it and threatens to turn it into yakitori. Despite his harsh words, Jiro gives a friendly wave goodbye to his animal friends, reminding the cat not to go raiding the trash cans. Jiro's return home is met with the furious face of his grandfather, who is already well aware that his grandson has gotten into yet another fight. An argument immediately breaks out. His grandfather scolds him, furious that Jiro is using the shinobi techniques he was taught for common street brawls. Jiro, ever the rebellious teen, yells back at the old-fashioned, violent geezer. His grandfather presents a katana, explaining that it's a treasured heirloom from the Edo period. He accuses Jiro of bringing shame to the Azuma family name, but Jiro just scoffs, saying it looks like a dull knockoff. Losing his patience, Jiro's grandfather hurls a sliding paper door at him. Jiro easily dodges and walks away, complaining that the old man has no chill. The grandfather tells Jiro to fix the door he broke and informs him that he'll be out for a neighborhood association meeting, leaving Jiro on his own for dinner. Jiro just replies with a defiant "huh." Having fixed the door, Jiro mutters to himself, wondering how long his grandfather is going to treat him like a child. Suddenly, he hears a familiar sound and wonders who it could be this time. It's the crow from before, and it's in a panic. Jiro recognizes it immediately. The bird frantically tries to communicate, mentioning a cat in the woods. Urged on by the frantic crow, Jiro wastes no time. He follows the bird as it leads him deeper into the woods at a rapid pace. Finally, the crow calls out, pointing him toward the spot on the forest floor. Jiro's eyes widen as he sees what the crow was trying to show him. He finds a black cat, lying motionless and heavily injured. Jiro is shocked by the state of the poor animal. The crow confirms it's not one of his friends. He just happened to find him. Jiro assesses the situation, noting that the cat is alive, but extremely weak. He knows he needs to treat him right away. Suddenly, a mysterious and powerful voice echoes in the darkness. It calls out to someone or something named Rigu, speaking of awakening from a long slumber by devouring the sun. The voice turns menacing and hostile. It declares that it will not lend its strength to anyone and commands the intruder to die. A terrifying eye glares out from the shadows, full of ancient malice. Despite the immense danger, Gyro's compassion overrides his fear, and he decides to save the creature. Sometime later, having successfully brought the cat back home, Gyro watches over it. The injured animal is resting on a beanbag in his room. It slowly begins to stir, its eyes opening. Gyro, relieved and surprised, realizes the creature has finally woken up. Back in his room, Gyro approaches the now-awake black cat with a bowl of water. He acknowledges how tough the little fella is to have survived such severe injuries, showing a surprisingly gentle and caring side. Gyro introduces himself, but is shocked when the cat speaks, questioning what is happening. Gyro, unfazed, simply asks if the cat has a name. The cat arrogantly calls Gyro an idiot, claiming he wouldn't understand the complexities of its existence. Gyro's temper flares, and he yells back. The cat is stunned, realizing with wide-eyed shock that this human can actually understand him. Still wary, the cat retreats under the furniture. Gyro tries to coax it out, explaining that he understands it must be surprising to meet a human who can talk to animals, but reassures it that he means no harm. The cat, whose name is Ragu, observes Gyro from its hiding spot. It can't sense any special aura, confirming Gyro is merely a human, which makes the situation even more baffling. As Gyro resorts to a last resort, Ragu defiantly vows not to move. Gyro's last resort turns out to be a simple bowl of food. The fragrant meal is too much for the hungry Ragu to resist. It cautiously emerges and begins to eat, as Gyro smirks, calling him a pretty simple fella. While eating, the creature proudly declares that its name is Ragu, and it is not a cat. Gyro is confused by this statement. Ragu recites a saying about the shame of spurning a meal, which Gyro finds odd coming from a cat. With newfound confidence from a meal, Ragu sits up proudly and makes a grand declaration. He is not a mere cat. He is a mononoke, a supernatural being who lives in the moment of eternity. Gyro struggles to process the word mononoke, thinking of monsters, apparitions, and evil spirits. Seeing his confusion, Ragu slyly thinks it might be able to trick Gyro into revealing what he knows about the supernatural world. Ragu explains that mononoke usually take the form of humans or animals, living innocently in cities, while some retire to forests or mountains. As Gyro listens intently, Ragu realizes the boy genuinely knows nothing about their world. Seeing that Gyro is clueless, Ragu begins to open up. It reveals that it was attacked by other mononoke, and because of a certain group, it was forced into a long, deep sleep from which it has only just awoken. Gyro asks why Ragu refused to join the other mononoke. With contempt, Ragu explains that it hates the idea of relying on the strength of others and trying to look good in front of comrades. Ragu admits that while it's a strange situation, it doesn't entirely disbelieve Gyro. For his part, Gyro honestly states he doesn't really understand what's what, but a human like him wouldn't be believed anyway. Gyro breaks into a wide, genuine grin. He says that for a human who can talk to animals, the existence of something like a mononoke isn't that far-fetched. He accepts Ragu's story without question. Ragu is taken aback by Gyro's simple acceptance, calling him a strange one. Meanwhile, in the same woods where Gyro found Ragu, a young woman with a ponytail reports into her section chief at headquarters. The agent, who identifies herself as Sheba, reports that she has discovered a bloodstain at her location. She confirms with absolute certainty that the blood belongs to Ragu. Her superior on the radio acknowledges her report and decides to put a search team together right away, believing Ragu is still in the area. He tells Sheba that her work is done for now. Sheba seems slightly irritated by the order to stand down, muttering to herself that she could have handled this much on her own. As Sheba leaves the woods, a sinister figure with a wide, toothy grin watches her from the shadows. A new, unknown threat is lurking nearby. Back at Gyro's house, he's giving Ragu a bath. He's astonished to see that the mononoke's deep wounds have already completely closed up. Ragu, annoyed, chastises Gyro for not believing him when he said he wasn't a normal cat. While cleaning the brush, Gyro mentions that this whole situation reminds him of his old dog, Nachi. He fondly describes her as a large, white dog who was as kind as a grandmother. Gyro reminisces about how he was constantly bullied in school and always came home covered in dirt and bruises, much to Ragu's angry bewilderment. He explains that Nachi was the complete opposite of the feisty Mononoke. In a touching flashback, a young Gyro washes Nachi after a fight. He recalls her comforting words, telling him to wash away all the negative feelings along with the dirt. She would tell him she was glad he was there, because with his kindness, she could be clean whenever she wanted. Gyro remembers Nachi's most important lesson, a piece of advice that has stuck with him all these years, to use his kindness to lend a helping hand to others. He realizes this is what she meant by something only you can do. Lost in the memory, he starts rinsing Ragu, who grumbles, thinking Gyro had said something. Gyro just tells him it was nothing, bringing the eventful bath to a close. Later that night, Gyro is fast asleep. Ragu, the mysterious Mononoke, sits quietly on the edge of the bed, watching over the boy as the clock ticks away the late hours. Speaking to the sleeping Gyro, Ragu admits that he's not a bad kid and offers his thanks. However, he also states that he cannot stay here for long. With a final, unheard farewell, Ragu prepares to depart, leaving Gyro to his dreams, completely unaware of the Mononoke's decision. Ragu struggles as he makes his way outside. He notes that while his wounds have closed, his strength has not yet returned, and he needs to get away from this place as soon as possible before he is found. Just as Ragu plots his escape, he is startled by Gyro, who has suddenly appeared sitting outside. Gyro casually points out that the Mononoke is limping. Ragu is stunned. Gyro reveals he used a ninja substitution technique, leaving a decoy in his bed. He asks the weakened Mononoke where he thinks he's going in his condition. Ragu coldly tells Gyro that it's none of his business. Gyro reminds him that he was the one who saved him, but Ragu scoffs at the very idea. With a piercing glare, Ragu dismisses Gyro's act of kindness entirely. "I don't remember asking to be saved," he states, his pride refusing to acknowledge any debt. Gyro's expression hardens with anger. Ragu continues, explaining that he had no problem with dying and that Gyro helped him of his own free will. He once again tells Gyro that his fate is none of his business, leaving the boy completely baffled. Gyro finally snaps. He can't comprehend Ragu's disregard for his own life. He furiously shouts, asking under what possible circumstances someone could ever truly be okay with dying. Pushed to his limit, Ragu unleashes a fraction of his true power. His form darkens and grows more monstrous as he gets sick of Gyro's complaining, threatening to tear the boy's windpipe to shreds. Ragu reminds Gyro of the vast gulf between them. He declares that Mononoke live in a different world from humans, and that he's a monster who eats people. As Ragu tells Gyro to stay away from him from now on, Gyro suddenly notices something. His expression shifts as he senses an unwelcome presence, musing that it looks fun. A large, intimidating man with sunglasses and small horns suddenly appears, smiling menacingly. He calls out Ragu's name, confirming he's another Mononoke who has been hunting him. Gyro immediately confronts the intruder, telling him to get out of his home. Gyro tells the horned Mononoke that he's pissing him off and demands that he leave. The creature just smirks, telling the impatient human to calm down. The horned Mononoke's arm transforms into a grotesque, clawed limb. He tells Gyro not to worry, because he's going to eat him now. Gyro can only stare in horror. The scene shows the full horror of the Mononoke's transformation, a massive, monstrous arm ready to tear Gyro apart, contrasting with the peaceful suburban background. The horned Mononoke tells Ragu his fun is over, but Gyro tries to intervene, yelling "Wait dash!" and attempting to grab the Mononoke. But the enemy is too fast. Gyro, realizing the immense danger, grits his teeth. He echoes Ragu's earlier words, telling the small Mononoke to stay away from him as he understands they truly live in different worlds. The chase is on. The powerful horned Mononoke barrels through the forest, easily crashing through trees in hot pursuit of Ragu. As he flees, Ragu is taunted by his pursuer. Knowing he can't shake him, Ragu's only goal is to lead the enemy as far away from Jiro's home as possible. The horned Mononoke easily keeps up, observing that this must be Ragu's full speed. He seems disappointed, having heard Ragu was weakened but still expecting a better chase. With incredible speed and power, the horned Mononoke leaps through the air, contemptuously calling their pursuit a dull game of tag, as he easily closes the distance and snatches Ragu from midair. The horned Mononoke grins triumphantly, his prey now captured. Ragu is helpless in his grasp, the chase having come to an abrupt and brutal end as the larger monster prepares to finish the fight. The forest falls silent for a moment, the empty clearing bearing the only faint traces of the chase. But the confrontation is far from over. The horned Mononoke slams Ragu into the ground with contemptuous ease, taunting the smaller creature for his pathetic weakness. Ragu can only grunt in pain, unable to fight back effectively. Standing over his defeated foe, the horned Mononoke mockingly asks if this is the legendary Mononoke, the renowned Ragu, the Black Star. Ragu can only growl in defiance. The villain reveals that his group went through a great deal of trouble to remove the seal that had imprisoned Ragu. He extends a false invitation, asking Ragu to come with them and claiming he'd rather not kill a comrade. Ragu scoffs at the word comrade, seeing through the deception. He accuses the horned Mononoke of only wanting his power and defiantly challenges him to a fight to the death, right here and now. The horned Mononoke accepts the challenge with a sadistic grin, agreeing to the fight but making it clear Ragu will be the only one dying today. Just as the horned Mononoke prepares to deliver the final blow, Jiro leaps into the fray from out of nowhere, wielding his grandfather's katana and aiming a powerful strike at the villain. The moment is a blur of action and reaction, the flash of Jiro's blade, the horned Mononoke's surprised expression, and Ragu's utter shock at the boy's return. Jiro's attack connects, but the horned Mononoke manages to block the blade with his monstrous arm, sliding back from the force of the impact. The Mononoke stares at the katana, now embedded in his arm. Ragu looks on, stunned into silence by Jiro's incredible feat. With the blade still stuck in his enemy's arm, Jiro stands his ground, ready for the next move. Ragu can only look on in disbelief, finally stuttering, "Kid!" Jiro furiously yells at Ragu, calling him an idiot for being so willing to die. He passionately explains that if Ragu dies, it means Jiro will have failed to save him, a failure he refuses to accept. The horned Mononoke laughs at Jiro's stupid reason for fighting, reminding him this isn't a playground squabble. Jiro shouts back with unwavering conviction, "You don't need a reason to help people." Jiro reaffirms that he was the one who saved Ragu, and he's not about to abandon him now. He also adds that, realistically, the powerful Mononoke would probably come after both of them, even if he ran away. The enemy Mononoke sheds his human disguise, transforming into a massive, terrifying wolf-like beast. He's impressed by Jiro's bravery and, noting his skills and sword, correctly guesses he is a shinobi. The fully transformed Mononoke grins with predatory delight. He declares that a strange, skilled human like Jiro is actually worth eating. The beast lunges forward with devastating speed and power. Jiro is taken aback, realizing the sheer force he is now facing. Using his agility and training, Jiro executes his cicada shell technique, leaping onto the monster's back to evade the powerful initial strike. With a burst of speed, Jiro vanishes from the monster's back, attempting to reposition himself for another attack. The monster is momentarily left striking at empty air, but the Mononoke's speed is overwhelming. It instantly appears behind Jiro, impaling him through the chest with its massive claws and mockingly asking if he enjoyed his little flanking maneuver. With Jiro skewered on its claws, the monster tells him to give up, warning that the more he struggles, the more it will hurt. Jiro can only cough up blood, his life slipping away. In a final, desperate act of defiance, Gyro swings his katana and manages to slice off the monster's arm. Impressed, the Mononoke leaps back, exclaiming, "Oh, dangerous!" The monster applauds the shinobi's willpower to counterattack after such a fatal blow. But Gyro collapses to the ground, a gaping hole in his chest. The monster notes with amusement that the boy can no longer hear his praise. Gyro lies motionless on the forest floor, seemingly dead. Ragu can only stand over his fallen body, a silent witness to the boy's sacrifice. As his severed arm rapidly regenerates, the horned Mononoke dangles a twisted path to victory before Ragu. He suggests the ultimate act of pragmatism: devour the human's body, regain his legendary strength, and then, surely, he'll change his mind and join their cause. Ragu's gaze falls from a monster to Gyro as still form. The cruel suggestion hangs in the air, but instead of temptation, it sparks a different kind of fire. A silent, cold fury envelopes him, his power surging not just with rage, but with resolve. He utters a single word to shut down the offer: silence, before making a chilling promise: "I'll kill you." Looking down at Gyro's lifeless body, Ragu scolds the boy for being a selfish idiot. He says Gyro didn't stop to think why he left without a word, and because he ignored the warning to stay away, he is now dead. Ragu admits it's true that he could eat Gyro to regain his strength, but he refuses to listen to the horned Mononoke suggestion. Instead, he makes a different choice. He tells the fallen boy, "You're gonna eat me," declaring that he owes Gyro a debt. Ragu decides to repay it now. A powerful dark energy erupts from Gyro's fatal wound as Ragu commands him to wake up. The horned Mononoke watches in shock, realizing something is wrong. In a final, ultimate sacrifice, Ragu offers his own life to the boy who tried to save him, merging his very essence with Gyro's body. Far away, the agent Shiba is alerted by a sudden, massive surge of energy, sensing that the situation has drastically changed. Her section chief, Ichikawa, confirms over the radio that they've also detected the disturbance. As the horned Mononoke roars Ragu's name in fury, Ichikawa gives the order for all forces to move in. The horned Mononoke is enraged, screaming at the newly revived Gyro. He accuses Ragu of abandoning his brothers and siding with a human. But Gyro, his eyes now filled with a dark power, simply tells the monster to shut up. Gyro stands reborn. His body is now a fusion of human and Mononoke, his arm and shoulder wreathed in black energy, and a mysterious symbol now emblazoned on his chest where the fatal wound used to be. Gyro, back from the dead, is completely bewildered. He looks at his transformed body and the strange marking on his chest, asking himself, what the fuck happened? Ragu's voice now speaks inside Gyro's head, telling him there's no time for confusion as the enemy is coming. The horned Mononoke charges, furious that the two useless louts have merged into one. Empowered by his new form, Gyro easily dodges the monster's furious charge, moving with a speed and agility he didn't possess before. Gyro demands an explanation from Ragu, asking what he means by became one. Annoyed, Ragu's voice tells him to focus, that defeating the monster comes first. The monster attacks again, its power creating a shockwave. Gyro, still confused, yells out, asking how exactly he is supposed to defeat such a powerful foe. Ragu reassures him, saying he'll lend a hand. The instructions are simple. Gyro just needs to punch the monster as hard as you can. Filled with a surge of newfound power and determination, Gyro winds up for a punch, channeling all of the dark Mononoke energy into his transformed arm. Gyro unleashes a devastating strike. His arm erupts into a massive torrent of black energy, completely engulfing and overwhelming the horned Mononoke. The battle is over in an instant. The horned Mononoke has been completely obliterated. Gyro stands panting, staring at the destruction and wondering, what was that? Gyro tries to piece together what happened. He recalls being hit, then seeing black smoke emerge from his own body. Confused, he looks at his hand and calls out for Ragu. Suddenly, a blade is at his neck. A voice, which he now recognizes as Ragu's, warns him from within, "Don't move." The blade belongs to the agent, Shiba, who appeared from nowhere. She holds him at knife point, remarking with a smirk that he has turned into something quite troublesome. Her superior, Ichikawa, appears behind her, calmly lighting a cigarette. He notes that this development was beyond their expectations. When Jiro asks if they're friends of the other monster, Ichikawa corrects him. Flanked by heavily armed soldiers, Ichikawa introduces his organization. They are not Mononoke, but the Public Bureau of Espionage, just respectable government employees. Jiro is surrounded. Ichikawa tells him that while he can probably guess the situation, they will explain the details later. For the present moment, they will be restraining him. Jiro is shocked by the demand. Jiro's temper explodes. He screams at them, furious that they can just show up and do whatever they want. As he's about to say more, Ragu's voice frantically tries to stop him, warning him about what he's about to say. The chapter ends with a full shot of the calm but deadly Agent Shiba, her blade still ready. Her silent gaze is a clear command. Don't speak. Before Jiro can say another word, Shiba knocks him unconscious. Ichikawa advises her not to do anything rash, but she calmly explains that she merely knocked him out with the handle of her blade, as it would have been dangerous if he had tried to resist. Shiba asks what their next move is. Ichikawa decides they will take Jiro to their hospital for treatment and examination, noting that it would be problematic if he died. As he looks down at the unconscious boy, he declares this kid is important, setting the stage for a new, mysterious conflict. Jiro finds himself in a strange, dark space, completely bewildered. He vaguely remembers meeting a strange cat, then being attacked by a monster. He calls out for the cat, Rago, and wonders where he is, noticing smoke flickering from his own body. Rago the cat appears, callously informing Jiro that he has a gaping hole in his chest and is on the precipice of life and death, much to Jiro's shock. Jiro suddenly wakes up in a bed, groaning in pain. He dismisses the entire horrifying experience as nothing more than a crazy dream as he clutches his aching head. But as he sits up, a sharp pain reminds him of the incident. He looks down at his chest and realizes with dread that it wasn't a dream at all. A young woman with reddish-brown hair informs him that he's been unconscious for nearly a day and a half. Jiro, still dazed, asks where he is and who she is, as she reports to someone on the phone that he's awake and fully conscious. Jiro becomes increasingly agitated as the woman casually discusses getting snacks over the phone, completely ignoring his questions. He angrily demands to know what's wrong with her. As the woman continues her phone call, Rago the cat suddenly materializes on top of Jiro's head, remarking that she isn't a very charming girl. Jiro readily agrees. A man with long, dark hair enters the room, admonishing the woman for hanging up on her boss. He seems surprised to see Jiro, questioning why he's only been sleeping. Hearing the commotion from the hallway, the man bursts into the room, yelling at Jiro and Rago to be quiet, reminding them that they're in a hospital. Jiro, in turn, yells back, demanding to know who he is. The man calmly walks in and tells Jiro Azuma that he's glad to see he's okay, complimenting his durability. Rago addresses Jiro directly, telling him to show some respect and not to be so friendly. The man notes that the situation is better than expected, as Jiro doesn't seem to be hostile. The man introduces himself as Ryusuke Shiba and his subordinate as Ichika Kishimojin. Jiro demands the thorough explanation they promised him. Shiba acknowledges that Jiro's memory is intact and confirms that they are from the Public Bureau of Espionage. Shiba begins to explain their organization, asking Jiro if he's ever heard of the Anawaban, a group of shinobi from the Edo period. Jiro scoffs, saying he's not an idiot, which unexpectedly surprises Shiba. Shiba explains that with the changing roles of the new government during the Meiji Restoration, the Anawaban evolved into a shadow organization that doesn't officially exist, the Public Bureau of Espionage. He continues, stating that their main work involves domestic and international intelligence gathering and information manipulation, as well as the observation and elimination of Mononoke. Shiba elaborates that in recent years, incidents caused by Mononoke have become rare, giving his specialized section a rather comfortable position. However, that changed just yesterday, when one of their facilities was attacked by a group of Mononoke. He then reveals that the target of that attack, the being that was hidden and sealed away in that facility, was none other than Rago. Having finished his explanation, Shiba lights a cigarette and turns the conversation over to Jiro, asking him to recount how he ended up in his current situation. Their conversation is interrupted by a nurse telling them to be quiet. This sparks a shouting match between Jiro and Ichika, who berates him for being a crazy idiot who stuck his nose where it didn't belong and rescued a Mononoke. While Ichika fumes, Shiba calmly cuts to the heart of the matter, stating that particulars aside, the main issue is that Jiro has merged with Rago. Jiro stares at his hand, as a part of it seems to dematerialize into shadow. Shiba bluntly informs him that if they leave him this way, he'll remain like that until he dies. Shiba admits they don't know how to undo the merging, and since they can't predict what other Mononoke will do, they will protect Jiro for the time being. Rago adds that Jiro has no say in the matter. Jiro is outraged to learn that he's already been processed as a missing person by the police. Shiba coldly clarifies they are not heroes and have no obligation to respect his individual rights, effectively placing him under their complete control. Shiba drives the point home, telling Jiro he's not a kid anymore and must take responsibility for his actions. He then lays out the immediate plan. Jiro will be transferred to a different facility in the morning, and until then, he's to stay put. He leaves a bag of snacks on the bed before preparing to leave. As Shiba and Ichika leave, Shiba casually tells Jiro there are clothes and a towel in the closet and that he'll see him tomorrow. Jiro tries to call out to them, but they continue to walk away. Ichika pauses for a moment, glancing back at Jiro, who sits silently on the bed with Rago beside him. Without a word, she simply scoffs and exits the room, leaving a frustrated Jiro clicking his tongue in annoyance. Outside, Jiro curses his situation. Meanwhile, true to Shiba's word, two men in black suits stand guard outside his hospital room door as one checks the time. Lying in bed, Jiro processes his new reality. He's under guard, officially a missing person, and effectively in confinement. He thinks of his grandfather, realizing with grim determination that at this rate, he'll never be able to go home. He turns his head, seemingly speaking to Rago, and laments that this is exactly why he had told the Mononoke to stay away from him in the first place. Jiro asks Rago if he's going to get a lecture too. The cat, busy grooming itself, simply replies that it's not particular, as it's far too late for regrets. Rago gives Jiro a dose of reality. It points out that Shiba's group, the ones who sealed it up, are now guarding them, while the group of Mononoke that attacked them did so just to wake Rago up. Jiro realizes they have no allies, only hostility and selfishness from all sides. The weight of the situation causes Jiro to have a complete breakdown. He screams in frustration, declaring he's sick of everyone prattling on and on. Fed up, he decides that if this is how things are going to be, he's doing things his own way, much to Rago's surprise. Jiro abruptly announces that they are leaving. Rago, startled, asks where he's planning to go. Jiro insists that he isn't running away. With newfound resolve, Jiro clenches his fists and declares that they're going to go and make sense of everything that has happened to them. Jiro looks out the window, speaking to a pair of crows perched there. He muses that this is what he gets for sticking his nose in other people's business, but resolves to figure something out on his own. Rago, listening in, tells him not to count on its help. Outside the door, one of the guards yawns, complaining about how nothing ever happens. His partner reminds him not to let his guard down, as the Bureau controls the hospital and they're on a mission. Suddenly, the door to Jiro's room slams open with a tremendous crash, startling the two guards who frantically wonder what's going on. Jiro stands in the doorway, surrounded by a flock of crows, with Rago perched on his shoulder. He nonchalantly thanks his avian friends for their assistance. With a menacing grin, Jiro sarcastically thanks the stunned guards for all their hard work. Jiro bursts out of the room, using the flock of crows to mob the guards. As he makes his escape, Rago comments on his recklessness, but seems pleased that his plan to convince the birds actually worked. The guards panic amidst the feathered chaos, shouting that the target has escaped and that they need to contact the boss immediately. Now safely away from the hospital, Jiro stands on a bridge and sincerely thanks the crows for helping them escape. Jiro offers the crows the food he promised them, but they decline, saying there's no need. Seeing something so interesting was reward enough. Rago asks Jiro what his plan is now, reminding him that the Bureau will find him sooner or later. Jiro looks ahead, replying that he doesn't need much time. Jiro states there is something he has to do no matter what. He arrives at a traditional Japanese estate with a nameplate that reads Azuma. Rago realizes it's Jiro's house. As Jiro approaches his home, Rago sarcastically asks if he's being loyal. Jiro explains that he doesn't think his grandfather could bear him simply going missing like that. Rago remains skeptical, asking how Jiro intends to explain the bizarre situation, doubting that the truth would be believed. But Jiro simply grins with confidence, stating that it's his gramps, and he's sure he'll understand. Still, acknowledging there's an order to these things, Jiro envelopes Rago in shadow, telling the Mononoke to stay hidden until called. Taking a final, steadying breath, he prepares to face his grandfather. Jiro opens the door to his home, only to be immediately confronted by his grandfather, who startles him by calling him a suspicious person. Jiro is flustered, stammering his grandfather's name. His grandfather scolds him, asking if that's the first thing he has to say after leaving home without permission. Jiro scratches his head, trying to explain that there were complicated circumstances. Ignoring his grandson's excuses, the old man turns and walks away, sternly telling Jiro to shut up and follow him. Jiro meekly obeys, following his grandfather out of the house and towards a nearby park. They arrive at a local athletics park. Jiro asks how far they are going, insisting he has a lot to explain. His grandfather cuts him off, stating that he doesn't have much time. Jiro questions why they had to come to the athletics park of all places. His grandfather stomps his foot decisively and declares it's because here, nothing will get in their way. Without another word, Jiro's grandfather suddenly strikes him with a powerful open palm blow, sending him reeling. Jiro stumbles back, clutching his bruised face and calling his grandfather a fool. He asks what that was for, but his grandfather furiously retorts, asking if Jiro truly realizes what he has done. Jiro sits on the ground, admitting that leaving home was his fault, but that it was no reason to hit him. His grandfather reveals he heard everything from Shiba and that he's not talking about that, but about the fact Jiro got himself possessed by a Mononoke. Jiro looks on in shock as his grandfather continues, stating that he also knows the Bureau is now pursuing him. Completely bewildered, Jiro wonders how his grandfather could possibly know all of these secret details. His grandfather delivers a shocking revelation. He is a former member of the Bureau. Jiro can only stare in disbelief as Rago, sensing the gravity of the situation, begins to emerge from his shadowy confinement. With Rago now fully visible, the grandfather says that this explains the bloodlust he felt directed towards him when Jiro arrived. The grandfather correctly identifies Rago by name, stating that seeing him confirms everything. He declares that what's done is done, and as the failure of his grandson is his own responsibility, he must take action. Taking a martial arts stance, his eyes glowing with intimidating power, the old man declares that if Jiro is to be used by either the Bureau or other Mononoke, he will destroy them both here and now, and then kill himself after. Jiro panics, asking his grandfather what he's saying. Rago, however, seems perversely delighted by this turn of events, remarking that things are getting exciting. The grandfather leaps into action, shouting that there's no use complaining. Jiro can only curse, impressed by the old man's incredible agility despite his age. His grandfather's attack smashes into the ground with explosive force, kicking up a massive cloud of dust and debris as Jiro leaps back to dodge the blow. Jiro lands, gritting his teeth and acknowledging that his gramps is not holding back at all. Rago confirms that they are in fact screwed, but Jiro proudly replies, "That's my Gramps." Standing amidst the wreckage of the field, Jiro remarks that this is the first time he has ever seen his grandfather truly cut loose like this. In a blur of motion, his grandfather vanishes. Before Jiro can even register that he's disappeared, the old man is right in front of him, calling him too slow. He unleashes another devastating attack, launching a massive shockwave of force directly at Jiro. Jiro is sent sliding across the field, coughing and sputtering. As he struggles to recover, his grandfather explains that the martial arts of the Azuma lineage were designed to slaughter both humans and Mononoke alike. The grandfather continues his lecture, revealing that the techniques he taught Jiro were merely the fundamentals for self-defense. He expresses his bitter disappointment that it has come to this, as he had planned to let the rest of the deadly Azuma techniques die with him. Promising a merciful end, the grandfather leaps into the air for a final strike, so Jiro won't have to suffer. However, down below, Rago clicks his tongue in annoyance, deciding to intervene by unleashing a single blow of his own. Just as the grandfather's finishing blow is about to land, a massive, spiked tendril of shadow erupts from the ground, blocking the attack. The force of the impact sends the grandfather staggering back. Jiro, kneeling on the ground, looks back in shock and calls out Rago's name. Rago angrily asks Jiro what he's doing and if he wants to die. It reminds him that the old man is seriously trying to kill them and offers to lend a hand. Jiro, now coursing with Rago's shadowy power, forcefully tells the Mononoke not to decide things on its own. With determination, Jiro tells Rago not to get involved and that he told him to wait. In the distance, Shiba and Ichika arrive, calling out to the grandfather by his name, Toshimasa-san. The scene flashes back to the past, where a much younger Jiro bursts in on his grandfather, Toshimasa, telling him it's no time to be reading the newspaper and to follow him. In a flashback, a very young Jiro has climbed high into a tree to rescue a stranded kitten, reassuring the small animal that they are okay as he tries to climb back down. The tree branch snaps, sending young Jiro and the kitten plummeting towards the ground as he screams in terror. Toshimasa catches him just in time. A relieved Jiro exclaims, "Nice catch," but his grandfather looks down on him with a furious expression, calling him a stupid brat. Back on the ground, Toshimasa scolds his grandson, asking if he needs to get seriously hurt to understand that he shouldn't climb trees he can't get down from himself. Jiro looks away, muttering in protest. Jiro explains that the kitten was crying because it couldn't get down. His grandfather softens, acknowledging that it was good Jiro was trying to save it, but tells him he needs strength and resolve. Toshimasa wisely explains that acting without strength is simply reckless, and acting without resolve is irresponsible. He tells a teary-eyed Jiro that he is still young and lacks both. When Jiro asks what he should do if no one is around to help, Toshimasa bluntly tells him to give up without hesitation, much to Jiro's loud protest. The old man sighs, calling him a hard-headed brat. Toshimasa kneels down and affectionately ruffles Jiro's hair, telling him to get stronger by strengthening his body and spirit. Once he does that, he can climb any tree he wants. He advises him not to be rash until then. A happy young Jiro agrees and enthusiastically asks to start today's training, making his grandfather smile at his lively spirit. Returning to the present, Toshimasa tells a battered Jiro that this isn't training or a playground tussle. He warns him that he has stepped into a world of carnage, a road where lives are traded for goals. A grim flashback shows Toshimasa in his prime as a bureau agent, his name Azuma on his tactical vest, surrounded by bodies. He speaks of a world where one kills people in Mononoke. The flashback continues with images of killing himself and staining one's body and mind dark red with the indeterminate blood of strangers and foes. The memory shows him and his canine partner facing a colossal, terrifying Mononoke in a desolate landscape he calls a land of shadows where the sun never shines. In the present, Toshimasa clenches his fist, the memories swirling around him as he confirms that this brutal, shadowy world is the one he used to live in. With a look of profound sadness, he tells Jiro that he never wanted to send his cute little grandson to that world. Jiro turns away, bowing his head and apologizing, admitting that without thinking, he did something stupid. He turns back to face his grandfather, his eyes filled with a new fire. He states that he was clearly the one who stuck his head into this mess, and because of that, he will wipe his own blood off. He declares, "That's my resolve." A single tear runs down Toshimasa's face, moved by his grandson's words. He takes a step back, affectionately calling him a stupid brat. In the next instant, Jiro braces himself and apologizes to Rago for what he's about to do. A massive explosion erupts nearby, blowing a structure's doors apart as a startled Rago shouts his partner's name, realizing Jiro is the cause. It's revealed the explosion was a deliberate act by Jiro, who used Rago's power to create a diversion. He strains, telling Rago's power to stay with me for a little bit longer as he tries to control and expel it. With a final, guttural scream, Jiro unleashes a controlled blast of energy, creating another large explosion far away from their location. He did this to draw the attention of Shiba and Ichika, demonstrating his own form of strategy. His grandfather watches, understanding his intent. Rago calls Jiro an idiot, asking what he's thinking. Toshimasa, however, realizes what Jiro is trying to do. Show him his own version of strength and resolve by protecting everyone, including his pursuers, from the fight. Toshimasa tells him not to get full of himself. Jiro spits blood and gives a weary smirk, admitting that he's still lacking. Jiro reminds his grandfather of the advice he gave him long ago, to ask for help from those around you. He then looks at Rago, stating that for better or worse, he's not alone anymore. With a confident grin, Jiro tells his grandfather that Rago is going to lend him a hand, asking if there's anything wrong with that. Toshimasa is left speechless. Jiro presses him, yelling at him not to just say huh, and asking how he's supposed to know when to combine powers, as it's not something one gets right on the first try. Toshimasa finally understands. He recalls his own advice to Jiro as a child and realizes that to his grandson, it doesn't matter if someone is human, an animal, or even a mononoke, everything is equal. Toshimasa sighs in resignation, lamenting that Jiro's hard-headedness hasn't changed a bit. He repeats his old warning that Jiro will get seriously hurt, but concedes that he'll probably never change. As dusk settles over the ruined field, Toshimasa turns and walks away, declaring, "It's my loss." He raises his bandana like a white flag of surrender, admitting that he was the one lacking resolve. He tells the stupid brat to do what he wants. A battered but triumphant Jiro simply replies, "Yes, sir." Later that night, Jiro soaks in a hot bath, wincing from the sting of his wounds, but enjoying the relief. Rago sits on the edge of the tub, telling him to stop acting like an old man and to shut up and get back in the water. Jiro remembers something and apologizes to Rago for his selfishness during the fight. Rago huffs, saying he only had to watch the painful display, but Jiro retorts that everything has its limits. Rago looks at Jiro with surprising seriousness, telling him not to decide on his own to rush to his death like that. The Mononoke admits that if Jiro were to die again, it would have failed to save him. Jiro is taken aback by this rare moment of sincerity. Rago gruffly says that's all it wanted to say, then offers its strength whenever Jiro asks, telling him to be grateful and use it. Jiro relaxes in the water with a contented smile. He doesn't know what will happen now, but he knows they are in the same boat and might as well get along. He looks at Rago and asks, "Right, partner?" At a traditional Japanese estate, Jiro's grandfather, Toshimasa, speaks on the phone. He's told that a prisoner transport is being sent for Jiro, and he expresses his confidence in an agent named Azuma-san, relieved that his grandson didn't simply run away. The agent on the other end of the line, a long-haired man named Shiba, stands by a pier. He tells Toshimasa that they'll take care of Jiro now, as they have need of his unique spirit. Toshimasa accepts this and prepares for his grandson's departure. The scene cuts to the protagonist, Jiro Azuma, packing a bag in his cluttered room. He grumbles about a lingering pain while his companion, the black cat Mononoke named Ragu, sits and watches. Ragu the cat begins to speak, telling Gyro that since they don't know what their captors want, they might not ever be able to come back here. Gyro quickly denies that he is worried about it. Ragu tells him that it's okay to be scared and quotes a master named Inoki, saying one can only understand a path by taking it. His bag packed, Gyro stands and walks with Ragu towards the door. As Gyro opens the door, he is startled to find his grandfather, Toshimasa, waiting for him with his arms crossed. Outside, Gyro is confronted by a young woman with reddish-brown hair in a ponytail. She introduces herself as an agent from the bureau, her to act as his guard so he doesn't run away again. The agent, Ichika Kishimojin, points out a disguised convoy truck, explaining that they'll be riding in the trailer. Annoyed, Gyro agrees, saying he'd rather not waste any more time. Gyro and his grandfather exchange some harsh, but clearly affectionate, last words. They both tell each other not to kick the bucket while they're apart, a gruff acknowledgement of their bond. With a final "see you later," Gyro closes the truck door, leaving his old life behind. Inside the transport, Gyro is shocked to find himself in handcuffs. Across from him sits Ichika, who complains about the misfortune of having to escort him. Gyro angrily questions what's going on, feeling like he's being treated like a prisoner. Ichika coldly tells him to be quiet, and that he's not too far off with his assumption. Staring at him intently, Ichika delivers a shocking statement that cuts through Gyro's anger. "You are no longer human." She elaborates, telling a furious Gyro that he is now a monster that has merged with a Mononoke. As such, he is a target for them to crack down on, and he is no exception. As the truck rumbles down the street, Ichika's internal monologue reveals that while she may not understand the decisions of her superiors, she has the pride and responsibility of a professional to see her mission through. Gyro's anger boils over it being called a monster. His eye flashes with a dangerous, inhuman glint. In the driver's cabin, one of the agents thinks he hears something from the back, but his partner dismisses it. The confrontation escalates as Ichika grabs Gyro, telling him there are two things she hates more than anything: Mononoke and men who look down on women. Unbeknownst to her, the special handcuffs on Gyro's wrists begin to creak and crack under his surging power. She stares him down with cold fury, declaring that she does not even acknowledge his existence. Suddenly, the commotion awakens Ragu, who had been napping peacefully. Stretching luxuriously, he tells the bickering brats to keep it down, complaining that he can't even take a nap. Gyro retorts that he was wondering why Ragu was so quiet, pointing out he's just been napping this whole time. The cat nonchalantly replies that he was, but all the racket woke him up. Ragu turns his sarcastic wit on Ichika, remarking that the bureau must be shorthanded if they're sending a wet behind-the-ears little girl to escort them. He adds that she shouldn't be so lively and should perhaps be more worried. The scene cuts to the drivers of the truck, who find themselves driving into an unnaturally thick fog. One of them peers into the gloom and wonders about a strange shape on the road ahead. In an instant of shocking brutality, the driver's head is violently ripped from his body. His partner stares in frozen terror as a massive shadow looms over the cab, a hand dripping with blood. A massive impact slams into the truck, throwing everything into chaos. Inside the trailer, Ichika is thrown forward and crashes into Gyro. As the two are sent tumbling, Ragu, the picture of indifference, simply yawns. The aftermath of the collision is devastating. The transport truck now sits at a dead standstill, its front cabin completely obliterated and hissing from the force of the attack, leaving its occupant stranded. Dazed from the impact, Gyro tries to get his bearings as his face throbs in pain. Ichika, already on her feet, tells him to stay put while she assesses the situation, wondering if their own drivers caused an accident. Ignoring Gyro's protest, Ichika steps out of the wrecked trailer. She emerges into a thick, unnatural fog that surrounds the vehicle, obscuring the view of the city. Ichika immediately recognizes the phenomenon, an aura barrier. She curses herself for not realizing it sooner. Her eyes then fall upon the culprits, who are sitting casually atop the wreckage of the driver's cab, celebrating their successful ambush. The attackers are revealed to be a pair of Mononoke with an ironic sense of style. A massive, brutish monster is grotesquely chewing on the remains of a driver, while a smaller, leaner Mononoke wearing a fat boy t-shirt sits on his shoulders, telling him to stop eating. The smaller Mononoke addresses Ichika, mockingly stating how excited they were to attack the transport, only to be disappointed that the drivers didn't even make for a good appetizer. He casually compliments her on her dodge, however. The Mononoke continues his derogatory taunts, calling Ichika a disappointment. Having had enough of his filth, she furiously activates a device on her gauntlet, declaring that his insults can only go so far. Ichika's clothing transforms, releasing its quantum camouflage mode. Her casual jacket is replaced by a sleek, black and white combat suit. The taunting Mononoke is delighted by this development, grinning and exclaiming that this will be fun. The smaller Mononoke tells his large companion to stop chewing on the remains, as it's time for dessert. The hulking beast stands, towering over Ichika with a menacing shadow as she prepares for battle. Now in her full combat gear, Ichika stares down the enemy with cold determination, leveling her pistol and taking aim. Ichika opens fire, but the massive Mononoke easily deflects the bullets with his thick, durable arms. Switching tactics, Ichika holsters her pistols and closes the distance. In a flash of movement, she uses the larger Mononoke's body as a springboard, launching herself into a spinning kick aimed at the smaller, faster enemy. Unsheathing a blade, Ichika continues her high-speed, acrobatic assault, flying through the air to press her attack. She lands a glancing blow on the smaller Mononoke, but he's too quick. She realizes that while the big one is tough but slow, his partner is a different type entirely, and half-assed attacks won't work. As Ichika tries to analyze the situation, the smaller Mononoke appears directly behind her in a blur of speed, taunting that this is no time for her to be spacing out. The Mononoke lands a devastating blow, sending Ichika hurtling through the air and crashing hard against the side of the transport truck. Inside the trailer, Gyro feels the impact and calls out, asking what's happening outside. Ragu, looking out the back, sarcastically confirms that it's Mononoke and that he'll kill Gyro for being so slow to realize. Gyro asks about the barrier he heard mentioned. Ragu explains that while Gyro and Ichika were busy with their flirting, he sensed the Mononoke erecting the barrier, an aura of mist that has transported them to the hidden world, cutting them off completely. Gyro doesn't fully understand the concept of a hidden world inhabited by Mononoke, but he knows it's bad. He frantically tells Ragu to help him get out of the handcuffs, but the cat calmly replies that he can't. Gyro struggles against the cuffs in a rage, finding them unexpectedly tough. Ragu explains that they aren't normal handcuffs. They're blocking Gyro's aura, and Ragu isn't strong enough to open them now. His solution? Go out there and make the girl take them off. As Ichika struggles against her foes, Ragu gives a cynical lecture. He states that ultimately, the Bureau and the Mononoke are the same. They're only interested in controlling Gyro and Ragu, viewing them as nothing more than a pawn. Ragu suggests they should just let the Bureau and the Mononoke kill each other. Gyro, however, isn't listening to the cat's detached logic, angrily shouting that he doesn't get it. Gyro looks toward the fight, his expression serious. He tells Ragu that in this kind of situation, there's someone out there fighting for their sake. With a newfound determination burning in his eyes, Gyro declares that as men, they can't just sit back with their thumbs up their butts and do nothing. Gyro bursts out of the back of the truck, just in time to see Ichika get brutally slammed to the ground. Annoyed, Gyro tells Ragu to shut up about his cool little speech as he takes in the scene. The smaller Mononoke turns his attention to the newcomer. With a wicked grin, he recognizes Gyro as the boy possessed by the brat Rago. As he speaks, dark, powerful energy begins to emanate from Gyro's arm. The Mononoke gives Gyro an ultimatum. He has 10 seconds to decide between being kidnapped or being eaten. Across the battlefield, Ichika realizes that the attackers knew about the transport and are after Ragu. Ignoring the Mononoke's threat, Gyro shoves his cuffed hands towards Ichika, yelling at her to open them since he's here to help. She stares back, bewildered. Ichika stubbornly refuses, shouting that she never asked for help and doesn't need it from Mononoke like him. While Rigo calls her an idiot, Gyro tries to argue that this is no time for her pride. Before the argument can continue, the hulking Mononoke attacks with a massive punch, forcing Ichika and Gyro to leap out of the way. The smaller Mononoke declares that thinking time is over and he has decided to feast on Gyro's guts. As Ichika struggles, Gyro yells at her to stop being stubborn, warning that they'll both be eaten at this rate. As the situation becomes desperate, Ichika flashes back to a tragic moment in her past. After her mother was killed by Mononoke in an accident at work, a 5-year-old Ichika holds her father's hand as relatives worry about the family line with no successor yet born. Hearing the adults lament that a daughter can't possibly be the successor, the young, tearful Ichika clenches her father's hand and makes a bold declaration. She will succeed the Kishimogen family. At her family's grave, she places down her teddy bear and promises to study and train every single day to one day become a great spy, just like her parents. Back in the present, Gyro's voice shouting her name snaps her out of the memory. Gyro throws her own words back at her, reminding her of the pride and responsibility she spoke of to carry out her mission. He challenges her to use whatever means she has to see it through. He finishes his speech by shouting that she is a pro. After all, his words hit their mark, breaking through her despair as the Mononoke closes in. Inspired by his words, Ichika's resolve hardens, shouting Gyro's challenge back. Use whatever means you have. She throws him the key to his aura-suppressing cuffs. With a tremendous roar, Gyro unleashes his power, shattering the supposedly unbreakable cuffs. A vortex of dark, Mononoke energy erupts from his body, signaling his transformation. Now fully powered up, Gyro declares that they'll finish this in one blow. Rigu's dark energy envelopes him as he lunges forward, a monstrous shadow ready to strike. The enemy Mononoke can only watch, stunned by this sudden turn of events. In a powerful display of their newfound partnership, Ichika and the transformed Gyro stand ready to launch their coordinated attack. After the intense battle, Gyro lies sprawled on the shattered pavement, complaining about his rough landing. Rigu looks down, completely unimpressed by his host's lack of grace. Gyro picks himself up and approaches Ichika, who has her back turned to him. He states bluntly that he won't be thanking her for her help. Ichika retorts that she doesn't need thanks and won't be thanking him either. As Rigu mutters about her being uncute, Gyro clarifies that they only saved her so that she, in turn, could protect them. Gyro establishes their new dynamic, a clean slate where no one owes anyone anything. Ichika silently accepts this, establishing a tense truce between the two. When Gyro calls her you again, she cuts him off, finally introducing herself properly. Ichika Kishimogen. That's my name. Accepting this, Gyro asks the crucial question, what now? The two stand before the remains of the transport truck, the reality of their situation sinking in. They are stranded. Ichika's solution is simple. They're walking. Gyro is shocked to learn she doesn't even have a wallet. Elsewhere, the agent Shiba contacts his superiors, requesting to make a direct report regarding Gyro, Azuma, and Rigu. The scene shifts to a surreal space where Ryusuke Shiba stands before a council of elders, represented by floating gnome masks. As section chief, he formally requests the establishment of a new unit centered around using Gyro Azuma as a spy. The masked elders debate the proposal. One questions Shiba's sanity for wanting to use someone merged with a Mononoke as a spy. Another notes, however, that Rigu appears to be cooperative with Gyro at the very least. Shiba presses his argument, stating that since the enemy's target is Rigu, they can dangle Gyro in front of them as bait. He notes Gyro as shinobi blood and that his skills will grow far faster in the field than their current agents. In just 1 week, Jiro Azuma's life has been turned upside down. As he brushes his teeth, he reflects on the whirlwind of events. he met a strange Mononoke cat, was attacked by another Mononoke, actually died, had a fight with his grandpa, and was accosted by government agents. His ordinary life has become anything but. And now, he's here, standing on a desolate pier. Jiro looks out at the industrial port, completely bewildered by his new reality. He feels that if anyone asked him to explain what's happening, he wouldn't even know where to begin. A man with long dark hair, Shiba, approaches him. Having come from someone who broke out of hospital, he asks Jiro if he has gotten used to his new life. Jiro, still brushing his teeth, retorts that he isn't running away. He knows he's been under constant surveillance and has had more than enough time to cool down. He spits, wondering how anyone could call this a new life. Shiba lights a cigarette, stating that before anything else, they need to confirm Jiro's safety for the Bureau's sake and for Jiro's as well. Jiro looks on with suspicion, questioning Shiba's motives and his underlying lack of trust. They arrive at a shabby-looking warehouse. Jiro asks incredulously if this is seriously their base of operations. Shiba confirms that, as disappointing as it may look, this is indeed the base for Special Section 2. Shiba explains that each section of the Bureau operates out of its own independent and inconspicuous facilities, like office buildings, factories, or even shrines. Jiro takes offense at Shiba, saying, "You guys," pointing out that he isn't a part of their group. Shiba thinks to himself that being in the lowest priority security section sucks. A close-up of Shiba, who looks on with a cool, calculating expression as he continues to smoke his cigarette. Shiba tells him that he's already one of them, calling him Jiro Azuma. He then reveals the name of their unit, Black Torch. Jiro, however, is defiant. He declares he doesn't care what they're called, and that he's only here for his own sake, not to become a spy or work for them. Jiro clarifies his stance. He says that all we want is freedom, implying himself and the Mononoke Rago inside him. For them, fighting other Mononoke is just a means to achieve that freedom. That's all there is to it. Shiba internally notes that based on Jiro's personality, trying to reason with him might have the opposite effect. Just then, a black car pulls up to the shabby warehouse they've been standing in front of. A cheerful young woman with short black hair steps out, greeting the section chief. Jiro wonders who she is. Shiba introduces her as Special Section 2's assistant director, Hana Usami, one of his few subordinates. A man with glasses gets out of the driver's seat, telling Hana not to worry about the bags. As everyone gathers, Jiro eyes the newcomer suspiciously and asks Shiba what's with the playboy. Shiba cryptically replies that he is Jiro's new friend. Inside the warehouse, which serves as their lounge and operations center, the team is assembled. It is announced that for this reason, they were assigned a new member starting today. The new member is introduced as Reiji Kirihara. He's 17, like the others, and the heir of a distinguished family of spies. Jiro, sitting on the couch with Ichika Kishimojin, scoffs at the introduction, dismissing Reiji as a rich brat. Reiji Kirihara turns his attention to Ichika Kishimojin, asking if she is the one. Jiro interrupts, questioning what he means by more. Reiji ignores him, continuing that he'd heard about her high aspirations and was wondering what kind of person she'd be. Reiji compliments Ichika, saying he never imagined she would be this cute in person. The unexpected praise leaves Ichika blushing and speechless, while Jiro tells her to hold on, flustered by the forward comment. Reiji adjusts his glasses with a cool, confident expression. His focus is sharp and analytical as he says, "That's him." Jiro glares back, annoyed. Reiji reveals he read the report on Jiro, confirming that he seems like a troublesome type. He adds that he is still reluctant to be in the same unit as a half-wit like him, which makes Ichika nervous. The tension between Jiro and Reiji boils over. Jiro challenges him, asking what's his deal. Reiji coolly replies that his motto is being honest no matter what, unapologetically insulting Jiro to his face. The insults escalate. Jiro calls Reiji a shitty four eyes, asking if he's picking a fight. Reiji retorts by calling him a half-demon. Ichika tries to de-escalate, but Hana seems to think the situation is perfect, while Shiba watches with detached amusement. As Jiro and Reiji stand ready to brawl, Ichika yells at the half-demon and shitty Four Eyes to take their fight outside. Shiba, however, intervenes with a smirk. Looking at Hana, who is surprised, he tells the two rivals to not just take it outside, but to get serious. The scene shifts to the yard outside the warehouse. Jiro and Reiji stand opposite each other, preparing for a duel. The other members of the section, including Shiba, Ichika, and Hana, sit on a pile of wooden pallets to watch. As the two face off, Ichika asks what's going on, wondering if it's a duel like in a Western movie. Hana excitedly records the event on her phone. Shiba calmly explains that this confrontation is part of it, but the main goal is to establish the unit. Shiba elaborates that he proposed a higher-level test, one of which was an exam of Jiro Azuma's helpfulness. Now that Rago's power is free, they need to see how it can be properly used. As the duel is set to be recorded, Jiro prepares himself, readying his gloves for the impending fight. On Jiro's shoulder, the Mononoke Rago finally awakens with a yawn. The cat complains that Jiro made a fuss and woke him up right after he'd managed to fall asleep. Jiro calls him Sleeping Beauty, noting that it's almost noon. Reiji asks why Jiro is so angry at him. Jiro, with Rago on his shoulder, retorts that it's because Reiji is a shitty, annoying four-eyed playboy. He then turns to Shiba, demanding to know how come Reiji gets a wooden sword. Shiba admits he forgot to explain. Shiba explains the prestige of Reiji's lineage. Since ancient times, the Kurihara family has specialized in sword techniques, having taught swordsmanship to the shogun's family alongside famous schools like the Yagyu Shinkajiryu. Of course, none of this is in the public records. Shiba offers Jiro a spare weapon, but he declines, saying he doesn't know how to use one. Reiji tells him that he should use his own weapon, the particularly valuable weapon he recently acquired, referring to Rago. Jiro furiously rejects the idea, shouting that Rago isn't a weapon. He clenches his bandaged fists and declares with determination that this is his fight and his alone. Hearing Jiro, Rago tells him not to, but in and decides to go back to sleep. Jiro screams back that he doesn't want anyone interfering anyway. He's determined to handle this himself. Reiji dismisses the situation as a farce. He scrapes his wooden sword against the ground, creating a line in the dirt. Jiro, seeing this, angrily demands to know what he's doing. Reiji explains that he is handicapping himself, as it wouldn't feel right otherwise. He arrogantly taunts Jiro, asking if he should also close his eyes or turn his back, confident he can take him down in a single blow. Watching from the sidelines, Ichika tells Shiba that it seems both fighters are holding back. Shiba replies that there's nothing they can do about it now. Jiro, provoked by Reiji's condescending attitude, clenches his fist and mutters, "Bring it on, bastard." Fueled by rage, Jiro gets into a fighting stance. He snarls that Reiji's smug face and glasses are pissing him off, and he's going to crush them both. Jiro leaps high into the air, attempting to attack from above. Hana exclaims that since he's moving through the air, Reiji won't hear him coming. Shiba, however, seems unimpressed, thinking to himself that it doesn't matter. With his eyes closed, Reiji remains perfectly calm. He explains that for a true swordsman, measuring distance with sight or sound is second-rate. They use mere presence, as distance is absolute. As Jiro descends for the strike, Reiji effortlessly creates a barrier with his sword, deflecting the attack. He can create this defensive shield in a full 360-degree radius around him. Ichika is impressed, and Shiba calmly notes that it's fine. Reiji looks towards the seated observers, commenting that although Jiro possesses an incredible power, it seems to be wasted on him. He adds that he doubts Jiro will live much longer, a sentiment that brings a smirk to Shiba's face. Jiro lands on his feet, wiping his mouth. To Reiji's surprise, he seems completely unharmed by the deflected attack. Jiro asks, "What's wrong?" and declares that the real fight is just beginning. Reiji seems impressed that Jiro can take a hit, remarking that he's a Mononoke, after all. Jiro spits defiantly, saying that ever since he was a kid, his violent old grandfather had been working him to the bone. Jiro's eyes narrow as he dismisses Reiji's impressive sword skills as nothing but a playground sword game. Angered by the insult, Reiji steps forward, explaining that the Kurihara sword style isn't mere martial art, but a complete battle technique polished by great men through generations of bloodshed. His honor as a swordsman insulted, Reiji glares at Jiro. He states that calling his family's technique a game is an offense that merits certain death. Jiro grins wildly, unfazed by the threat. He challenges Reiji, shouting, "Just try and kill me then." Watching the intensity ramp up, Shiba notes to a concerned Hana that this is the climax of their fight. Without hesitation, Jiro bolts forward, charging straight at Reiji. Ichika calls him an idiot for his reckless approach. Hana, still filming, wonders aloud if he has a plan, but Shiba is certain he doesn't. Jiro continues his desperate charge. It's a foolish move. He has literally brought his fists to a sword fight. Reiji's barrier has a range of at least 2 meters, so Jiro has to somehow dodge or deal with that inevitable first strike. The situation seems the same as before, but this time Reiji is using his eyes and ears, not just his presence. At this rate, it seems Jiro will be defeated. But just as Reiji prepares to strike, Jiro successfully enters his opponent's range. With a loud snap, Reiji unleashes a blindingly fast attack. The resulting impact appears to shatter Jiro's head in a spray of black particles, a seemingly fatal blow. However, Reiji's attack was a feint. He didn't strike with his sword, but instead flicked a projectile from its tip. A close-up on his face reveals his focused, determined expression as the projectile flies towards its target. In an incredible display of speed, Jiro ducks under the projectile, which was the broken tip of Reiji's wooden sword. The attack misses, and Jiro emerges unscathed, ready to counter. Reiji is in disbelief. He realizes that from the very start, Jiro wasn't aiming for him, but for the sword itself. Jiro's fist is poised to strike, having completely outmaneuvered him. With a furious cry, Jiro lands a devastating punch, sending Reiji flying backwards. The watching group is stunned. Hana exclaims that Jiro did it, destroying the sword. Shiba notes that while he thought Jiro was just being reckless, he managed to figure out Reiji's range. Reiji coughs up blood, analyzing his defeat. He realizes that a wooden sword shouldn't break that easily, and that his counterattack would have worked if he had started it after Reiji began swinging. This means Jiro perfectly read his opponent's move. After only one real attack, Jiro holds the broken half of the sword. Jiro holds the broken sword over his shoulder like a bat. He declares that they're now tied with 1 hit each. Reiji, on one knee and wiping blood from his mouth, glares back, acknowledging the hit. Jiro casually tosses the broken piece of the sword away, taunting Reiji that he can no longer use his friend to fight. Jiro continues his taunts with a wicked grin, asking the rich boy if he wants to keep going or give up. He even offers to let Reiji off the hook if he buys him a juice, further infuriating his opponent. Reiji gets to his feet, calling Jiro's taunts ridiculous and something a middle schooler would say. He pulls his tie loose, angrily stating that the idea of him giving up is silly. Jiro grins, realizing the score is settled. Reiji adjusts his glasses. Both fighters understand that the preliminary test of skill is over. Now, the real fight begins. With intense, split-screen glares, both Jiro and Reiji have the same thought for each other: go to hell. With weapons out of the picture, the duel immediately devolves into a wild, bare-knuckle brawl as the two rivals charge at each other. Ichika, watching the chaotic scene, asks Shiba what's happening. The others can only watch, confused, as the technical duel has now become a messy slugfest. Shiba calmly explains that they're simply expressing their guts and toughness. Hana, still filming, remarks that they're talking with their fists, man to man, and romanticizes the brawl as youth. Ichika, however, is completely exasperated by the whole display. The brawl continues, with both Jiro and Reiji landing simultaneous, brutal punches to each other's faces. Sometime later, Reiji slowly comes to. He groggily realizes he blacked out. He sees Jiro sitting on the ground nearby, who taunts him, asking how he's feeling. Jiro, looking equally exhausted, sits on the ground. Reiji asks where everyone else is. Jiro replies that they probably went back inside. Since Reiji woke up after him, Jiro concludes their match was a draw. Jiro casually tosses a can to Reiji, saying here. Reiji catches it, asking what it is. Jiro tells him it's juice, though he can't resist calling him a numbskull and a pain in the ass. Jiro admits that after thinking about it, he was lucky. He acknowledges that if it had been a real battle, Reiji's first attack would have killed him. Furthermore, his own counterattack only worked because the sword was made of wood. A real blade would have cut his hand in half. In a surprising show of sportsmanship, Jiro concedes defeat. He says this time, it's your win, holding up a can of Oka soda. Reiji looks at the can of green tea soda, remarking that it looks disgusting and calling Jiro a middle schooler. As Reiji opens the can, it erupts, spraying soda all over his face. Jiro bursts into maniacal laughter, revealing his prank. He shook the can up while Reiji was still knocked out. You fell for it, idiot. Jiro continues to roar with laughter at his successful prank, mocking Reiji's smug smirk from before. Reiji is left drenched and furious. The commotion wakes Rago, who complains about the noisy brats and tells his trash kin to shut up. Back inside the base, Hana hands the SD card with the footage of the duel to Shiba. She asks nervously if this is really okay, but Shiba assures her she did a great job filming. Shiba explains that he doesn't expect the video alone to convince the higher-ups. Their real test is tomorrow, where their usefulness as a unit will be determined in the field. Ichika expresses concern, arguing it's way too early for the inexperienced Jiro and Reiji. Shiba counters that training them by the book won't help either. Hana asks what their mission will be, noting they haven't been given one yet. As Shiba examines the SD card, he cryptically replies, then we'll find one ourselves. Shiba lights a cigarette, a sly look on his face. He adds that he has the perfect thing in mind. If it works out, he says, they will finally see the enemy's true form. The chapter ends on a mysterious note. A black flame, symbolizing the Black Torch unit, burns brightly. This is something important, something that only they can do as they get closer to the truth. Azuma Jiro, now in a Special Forces-style uniform, angrily shouts, accusing them of making fun of him. The short-haired girl finds it amazing, while Reiji nonchalantly comments that clothes make the man. He then cuts the chatter short, stating they don't have much time. Meanwhile, Ichika Kishimojin, also in the new gear, wonders why she's a part of this, thinking 2 of them should be enough. The man with glasses explains that the team of 3, Jiro, Ichika, and himself, are all wearing the newly revised Type B covert operations gear. Reiji elaborates that the gear is heat, pressure, knife, and bullet-resistant, as well as waterproof and insulated. It's woven with artificial muscle fibers to boost combat abilities. He explains the revised part is an experimental feature and tells Jiro to try pressing the panel on his left wrist. As Jiro presses the button, the gear activates its quantum camouflage disguise mode. He's shocked to see it change their appearance. The man with glasses notes that it's still under development. Ichika is surprised her outfit's design changed slightly, as Reiji explains another function. By double-tapping the panel, the camouflage can be changed to a set of normal street clothes. He adds that this more standard version never made it to mass production due to high costs. Jiro marvels at the new feature, exclaiming how sweet it is, which earns him a reprimand from the man with glasses to stop freaking out over everything. Jiro notices that they've become somewhat transparent. Jiro is amazed that he can see through the others. The long-haired man, Shiba, explains this is the quantum camouflage stealth mode, which completely hides their shadow and presence, though it only appears semi-transparent to them. Jiro is excited, thinking he can go on a rampage unseen, but Shiba tells him it's not that easy. The man with glasses, Kuga, explains that they need to switch modes depending on the situation: camouflage for everyday use, stealth for missions, and assault for emergencies. Shiba nonchalantly adds that there are other things, but they'll get the hang of it as they go. Shiba declares the lesson over and that it's time to head out. The short-haired girl, Usami, gives a salute, confirming she'll be in charge while they're gone. As the team gets into a car, Shiba asks if everyone is ready. Now in their disguised outfits, the team of 3 stands together. Kuga reminds them that this is Black Torch's first mission and warns them not to let their guard down. The scene shifts, and Gyro finds himself looking up at a large torii gate, the entrance to a shrine. As the team walks into the shrine grounds, Gyro seems to be spacing out, looking around at the unfamiliar location. The team stands before the main shrine building. Following tradition, they bow once, clap twice, and then bow once more to pray. Gyro questions if simply visiting a shrine is their mission. Ichika wonders if this is just a detour, while Shiba suggests a little good luck won't hurt. Kuga, ever observant, suspects this shrine belongs to the Bureau. As the others walk on, Gyro turns his head, his attention caught by some music. He spots a lone figure sitting on a bench in the distance. A close-up reveals a young man with light-colored hair, wearing a distinctive shark-themed hoodie. He's listening to music on his phone and eating a popsicle. Ichika tells the others not to say such things after Gyro sighs about these types also being here. As they walk, Gyro's expression turns serious as he tells Shiba he's afraid he can't do that. The team is met by an agent stationed at the shrine. Gyro wonders if it's an acquaintance, but Ichika notes they don't seem to have an appointment. The agent confirms this, stating he wasn't told that Section 1 was supposed to come today. Ichika asks what Section 1 is, and Gyro tries to persuade the reluctant agent, saying they only need 15 minutes. The agent retorts that if Section 1 shows up, he's calling off their investigation. Ichika explains the Bureau's structure, showing a chart of its different sections. She points out that Special Section 1 is the greatest in both size and authority, which Gyro realizes is the exact opposite of their own section. Shiba calls the agent a straight-laced fellow. The agent grudgingly grants them 15 minutes before disappearing through a doorway. Now inside a storage-like room, Ichika asks what they're doing there and if they have a treasure map. Ichika asks if their work is below. Shiba confirms this, moving a floorboard to reveal a hidden access panel with a keypad. The panel opens to reveal a secret door and a hidden stairwell leading down into darkness. As they begin their descent, the others comment that the dark, moldy passage feels like something out of a ninja mansion, prompting Shiba to tell them to watch their step. Continuing down the crumbling stairs, Ichika's patience wears thin and she asks when they'll be told their destination. Shiba calmly replies that they are almost there and that seeing is believing, hinting at a reveal that requires witnessing firsthand. As they descend, the Mononoke Ragu materializes from Gyro's shoulder. Gyro, surprised, asks if he's awake, and then questions how he's feeling. Ichika is shocked by their destination, whispering, "This can't be." Ragu defensively asks if Gyro is mocking him, but Shiba tells him to take it easy. He announces that the place just up ahead is officially known as Special Ceiling Shrine 7. They enter a vast, dark cavern. Gyro and Shiba walk towards a massive, glowing stone monolith, the very place where Ragu was sealed. It's the Killing Stone, a rare mineral that repels aura, used in only a few ceiling shrines. Gyro and Ragu look on, realizing this huge rock is the cause of all their troubles. Shiba announces their mission, to investigate the scene. He assigns himself and Ichika to question witnesses, while Reiji and Jiro are to go over the events of that day with Ragu. However, Kuga bluntly refuses the arrangement. Kuga requests to work with Ichika, asking to switch places with the section chief. As Shiba and Ichika walk away, Gyro notes that Kuga was completely ignored by Ichika and muses that he just wants to be together with her. As they walk through the shrine grounds, Ichika expresses her concern about leaving Jiro and Kuga alone, fearing they might fight again. Shiba reassures her, explaining that Ragu doesn't trust them, so it will be better without them there. Shiba adds that some things are just easier to discuss among men. Ichika, however, finds this explanation not reassuring at all. Back in the cavern, Gyro looks up at the massive ceiling stone. He turns to Ragu and asks why he was sealed inside it in the first place, questioning if he did something terrible. He presses for an answer, saying he seriously wants to know. Ragu quietly states that he can't remember why he was sealed there or what happened before that. Gyro immediately gets angry, accusing Ragu of joking or trying to trick him, but Ragu insists he's not lying. Kuga steps in, telling Gyro that memory loss isn't that uncommon. He has seen former Mononoke who have lost themselves after being sealed for long periods of time. Gyro looks at him, wondering how he would know that. Gyro gets frustrated and demands to know now, but Kuga says it isn't something he should discuss there. He promises to explain things from the beginning, leaving out a couple of small details so Gyro can understand. Kuga begins his explanation. He defines sealing as simply forcibly making a Mononoke possess an object. He reminds Gyro that he has first-hand experience with this, as the technique is incredibly powerful and requires a Mononoke to expend all of its aura, making it impossible to undo on their own. Kuga continues, explaining that while Mononoke normally only possess living things, the sealing technique forces them into non-living objects. For Mononoke, this is the equivalent of eternal incarceration. He elaborates that being sealed in an object like a killing stone is a living hell, unable to move in complete darkness while your aura is continuously sucked away. After decades or centuries of that, even a Mononoke wouldn't pass unscathed. He concludes that if all Ragu has is a little memory loss, he got off lightly. He then shifts the conversation, deciding to talk about the present. Kuga then turns to Ragu and asks him a direct question. Tell me, Ragu, what happened here on the day you were released? Meanwhile, Shiba and Ichika are reviewing security footage from the attack. The screen is filled with static. Ichika notes they didn't record a thing, and Shiba confirms that all the cameras are like this. He deduces the attackers must have used a barrier. They question the shrine agent, who explains it was late at night with only 2 people on the night shift. By the time they heard noises and came running, the Mononoke were already gone without a trace. As the clock shows it's getting late, the agent says this is all he can do for the day. He finishes his cigarette and offers to send them the recordings later. Outside, Ichika is frustrated, stating that in the end, they didn't learn a single thing. She looks questioningly at her section chief. Shiba reflects on the situation, still feeling something strange about being there. He finds it odd that the attack was so quiet, with no witnesses or damage. He questions how the enemy knew Ragu was there, how they dropped the Killing Stone's aura, and raises the disturbing possibility that someone with access to that information betrayed them. Shiba extinguishes his cigarette and says he has no idea, but for the time being, they should regroup with the others. His odd pause leaves Ichika feeling flustered as she follows. Back in the cavern, Ragu begins to recount his memories. He tells Gyro and Kuga that it was completely pitch black and his mind was still hazy, and he honestly doesn't remember much. Ragu recalls his first sensations, the cold stone floor and the stagnant, moldy air. He then remembers a faint light, a large number of powerful auras, and when he finally opened his eyes, he saw several other Mononoke standing in the darkness, along with a single bright rectangle. Gyro asks what the bright rectangle is. Kuga speculates it might be some kind of aura technique, but then realizes Ragu is describing a tablet, meaning the man holding it could be the leader. On the tablet screen, a man's face appears, speaking to Ragu and saying it's been a long time. Ragu continues, explaining that he didn't know the man at all. The man on the tablet told him that while he was sleeping, the world had changed considerably. He stated that they had tried their best to find a means of survival, but were now at their limit. He then made a request. "O Rago, black star that devours the sun, lend us the strength to awaken from this long slumber." The man on the tablet's speech continues, urging Ragu to join them. He proposes that they take back their dignity as Mononoke, the world that is rightfully theirs, and show their power to the unenlightened humans and their sworn enemies in the Bureau. Ragu recounts that after he refused their offer, the man and the light vanished, and he was attacked in the darkness. He managed to escape, and Shiba congratulates him on getting away. Ragu grumbles that those guys were just after his power, just like Gyro. Annoyed, Gyro asks Ragu what he thinks he is, some kind of cat monster. Gyro complains that despite all the talk, they still don't know anything new, especially since Ragu can't remember much. However, Kuga interjects, correcting him. He states that's not the case and that they've gained 3 new, important pieces of information. Kuga lays out the 3 key points. First, the enemies were somehow able to undo the possession that bound Ragu to the stone. Second, the man in the video knew Ragu before he was sealed. And third, while their methods are unclear, their motives are most likely. Kuga concludes that their objective is revenge on humans and the Bureau. Gyro is taken aback, repeating the word revenge. Kuga notes that since Ragu's liberators called the Bureau their sworn enemy, there must be some connection, even if the details are still unclear. Gyro sighs, waving his hand dismissively. He says, "Sorry, this is getting really troublesome." Gyro scratches his head, admitting that it's all going in one ear and out the other. But then his demeanor shifts. He says that thanks to Kuga, he feels a little relieved. Up until now, he felt dragged into a jumbled mess, but now it's all clear. Kuga, however, just thinks Gyro is seriously slow on the uptake. Gyro lays out his understanding of the situation. Whatever is connecting him and Ragu, the enemy has a way of undoing it. And while Ragu has lost his memories, the enemy knew him in the past. With this newfound clarity, Gyro clenches his gloved fist. He declares that he now knows what he needs to do, and that they can let the enemy do whatever they want. With a determined grin, Gyro clenches his fist and makes a vow. "I'll beat up the ones that come after us, and I'll hunt down and beat up the ones that don't." Gyro believes that through fighting, everything will be solved and they'll find what they need to know. He turns to Kuga and Ragu, asking if they agree it's a perfect plan to stop their revenge and solve everything. 3 birds with 1 stone. Kuga can only stare, dumbfounded. Kuga explodes in anger, calling Gyro completely beyond help and an idiot. He argues they should keep investigating since they know nothing, but Gyro shouts back that they'll just fall behind. Their argument escalates into a shouting match about whether to investigate or just beat the answers out of the enemy. Suddenly, the shouting stops. Both Gyro and Kuga, along with Ragu, turn their heads in unison, sensing a new presence that has interrupted their argument. The figure they saw earlier at the shrine, the young man in the shark hoodie, has appeared in the cavern. Gyro wonders if he got lost and wandered in, but then recalls seeing him at the rest stop. The mysterious man crumples something in his hand and says, "Finally." The man in the hoodie casually drapes his arms over Gyro and Kuga's shoulders, still chewing on something. He ignores them and speaks directly to the cat. "I've been waiting to meet you, Rago." In a split second, Kuga and Gyro react to the threat. They both whirl around and leap away, creating distance. The intruder casually steps back, letting them go and sighing, "Ah, how depressing." The mysterious intruder glares at them with contempt, his friendly demeanor gone. He snarls, "You're interrupting our emotional meeting, you trash." Kuga, now holding a weapon that resembles a tonfa, warns Gyro to be careful. Gyro, with a confident smirk, confirms he knows the intruder is a mononoke, which prompts an annoyed Kuga to tell him to shut up. Gyro draws his own blade, telling Kuga not to order him around. He agrees that they need to fight, seeing the mononoke as an important clue they can't let get away. Gyro smirks, thinking this is the perfect chance to test his new gear. He presses the button on his wrist device, releasing the camouflage mode. He declares that their first mission starts now. Gyro transforms, his arm covered in the black energy of his mononoke power, ready for a fight alongside Kuga. He yells, "Let's do this!" The enemy mononoke simply grins and dismisses them as trash. Back on the surface, Ichika and Shiba feel the ground tremble. Ichika looks up in alarm, wondering what's happening. Shiba's expression darkens as he realizes, "They got us." They turn to find the entrance to the underground passage is now completely blocked by a swirling vortex of black energy. Shiba identifies it as a barrier, and a particularly strong one at that. Ichika panics, shouting that they can't get back inside. She worries about Gyro and Kuga, knowing they're in trouble if she and Shiba can't do something to help. A new, calm voice asks what the hell is going on. A woman has arrived on the scene. Shiba looks over, unsurprised. He remarks that for her to come here personally is beyond expectations, but she's arrived just in time, like the perfect cavalry. The newcomer is revealed to be Tuko Kusumi, the chief of Special Section 1. She stands with an imposing presence, her face marked by a distinctive scar near her eye. Shiba sighs, remarking, "Good grief," and lamenting that this trouble occurred right after they had offered prayers for good luck. Ichika looks on, worried, while Tuko Kusumi calmly addresses her subordinate. The chapter ends on a tense cliffhanger. A montage shows Jiro in his transformed state, Kuga ready for battle, and the enemy Mononoke grinning with anticipation. The conflict is inevitable, and for the members of Black Torch, this has become one hell of a first mission. A mysterious man with white hair and an eye patch appears, introducing himself as Kuga. He states his ambitious goal, to become the strongest Mononoke. Kuga continues, explaining that he isn't strong enough yet and needs Rago. Elsewhere, Jiro and Reiji question this stranger's intentions and his claim of wanting to be the strongest Mononoke. Kuga smirks confidently and declares his intention to make Rago his. Reiji observes him, noting that he doesn't seem to be hiding anything, and wonders if he's simply an idiot. Reiji confronts Kuga, asking why he needs Rago and what he means by the strongest Mononoke. Kuga, annoyed, tells him not to address him so casually. With a condescending smirk, Kuga calls humans dumb. Ripping open a chocolate bar with his teeth, he reveals his true motive. He wants Rago's infinite power. Jiro and Reiji are taken aback by the word infinite. Kuga explains that Mononoke are semi-immortal, unlike humans who have fixed lifespans. Kuga elaborates that while Mononoke can still die if they are destroyed or don't eat, Rago is different. Rago can produce aura endlessly without needing to eat or drink. With that power, they would become completely immortal and have nothing to fear. A horn bursts from the side of Kuga's head as he grins maniacally, declaring that with Rago's power, he will be at the very top. Jiro, enraged, prepares to charge forward. However, Reiji stops him, advising him to wait as they still haven't learned anything about Kuga's organization. Ignoring Reiji's warning, Jiro lunges at Kuga, but the attack is effortlessly blocked. Kuga simultaneously lands a swift kick on Reiji, sending him flying. Kuga, tired of talking, decides to eliminate Reiji first. He unleashes a powerful blast of energy as a horrified Jiro shouts Reiji's name. Jiro screams in agony as he is caught in the blast meant for Reiji. Kuga, however, states that since Jiro is Rago's vessel, he's also in the way and tells him to stay put. Rago shrieks Jiro's name in alarm. Seeing this, Kuga turns his attention to the cat, deciding to talk to him directly now that they are finally face to face. Kuga picks up Rago and offers him a partnership. He promises to release Rago from his human host, suggesting they become one. Kuga holds Rago aloft, proclaiming that together they will become invincible, immortal Mononoke kings. But Rago simply tells him not to make him laugh. Rago scoffs at the idea of Mononoke kings, calling Kuga an idiot. He furiously declares that he doesn't belong to anyone and couldn't care less about such titles. Stunned by the rejection, Kuga is left speechless. He can only stammer, "What?" Kuga's shock turns to rage. He grabs Rago, shaking him as he screams, unable to understand why Rago would turn down his offer. Jiro, seeing Kuga's tantrum, calls him a spoiled brat and tells him to stop whining. He then shouts for Reiji to act now. Reiji, having recovered, tells Jiro there's no need to scream at him. He was just about to make his move. He prepares to unleash his Kirihara sword technique. Reiji lunges forward, executing a powerful Ayajutsu strike known as Sky Eater. The attack slashes across Kuga, but he seems to have dodged the full impact. Jiro and Reiji look on, surprised that the technique, which was supposed to cut him in half, only grazed him. Reiji notes that their opponent is quite strong, considering he's acting alone. Jiro agrees, realizing they need to do something and that he's counting on Reiji. His composure finally shatters. Kuga's face contorts with fury as he repeatedly screams at them to shut up, his patience completely exhausted by their resilience. As his rage boils over, Kuga's arms begin to transform into long, dripping appendages of pure shadow. "This is why I hate humans," he seethes, explaining that while they are weak alone, they swarm together and act like they own the world. Kuga declares he's done playing around. He points at Reiji, promising to kill him quickly. He then turns to Jiro, stating that while he won't kill him, he will cut off his limbs and take him back, since he's merely a bag for Rago. His face shrouded in shadow, Kuga announces his intention to etch the truth of who is superior and who is inferior, Mononoke or humans, into their minds. His shadowy arms begin to drip and coalesce. In response to Kuga's taunts, Jiro roars back, vowing to show him the true difference between them. A massive, monstrous arm made of dark energy erupts from his own, dwarfing Kuga's. Meanwhile, outside the battle zone, a man named Shiba and a blonde woman arrive to find a messy but powerful barrier. An older gentleman named Tokita informs them it will take time to break the seal with the limited tools he has. As Tokita prepares to work on the barrier, Ichika nervously approaches him, stammering as she tries to speak. Gathering her courage, Ichika looks at Tokita with concern and asks if there is anything she can do to help. Ichika explains that she feels bad just waiting around while her comrades are in danger. Understanding her desire to help, Tokita hands her a stake and instructs her to drive it into a marked spot. Shiba casually remarks that it was a good thing they brought Tokita, as he can break such a seal in 5 or 10 minutes. He seems unconcerned, believing the two rookies inside with Rago should be able to manage by themselves for a little while. The blonde woman, annoyed by Shiba's relaxed attitude, grabs him. "Shiba," she says icily, "do I look like fucking insurance to you?" Shiba remains composed, stating that he has faith in his subordinates and in her. He explains that since it's their first mission, it's his duty to prepare them for these situations. The woman retorts that the cavalry shouldn't be laughing, accusing him of knowing this would happen and preparing for it deliberately. Their eyes lock in a tense moment. Shiba tells her he wouldn't have it any other way and expects her to return the favor. He then gently kisses her hand. Back inside the barrier, the fight intensifies. A massive explosion of force erupts from Kuga, sending debris flying as Jiro and Reiji leap out of the way. As the dust and debris fly, Reiji and Jiro regain their footing, their expressions grim and determined amidst the chaos. Reiji engages Kuga directly, his sword clashing against Kuga's newly formed bladed weapon. Kuga grins maniacally as Reiji struggles to parry the blow. Kuga's immense strength proves too much for Reiji. He overpowers the swordsman, sending his katana flying before knocking him back. Kuga then reveals his arm has fully transformed into a massive, brutal-looking mace. With Kuga's attention on Reiji, Jiro sees an opening. Roaring with fury, he leaps high into the air, preparing to bring a powerful stomp down on their enemy. Jiro lands a devastating punch directly on Kuga's head, the impact echoing through the battlefield. Kuga is visibly shocked, gritting his teeth as black, crackling energy bursts from the point of impact. He questions what just happened, surprised by the force of Jiro's attack. Kuga quickly recovers, mocking Jiro. "Is that it?" he sneers after using Rago's power. "That's all you got?" He then brutally slams Jiro into the ground with his mace. Kuga stands over the downed Jiro, a look of disappointment on his face. He addresses Rago, saying that as a fellow Mononoke, it makes him sad to see all of his power stuffed into such a miserable human. As he begins to walk away, Kuga gives a final threat. "Just you wait. I'll bring you back. I'll tear you out of him if I have to." He then insults Jiro, telling him to shut up and calling him an emotionally unstable. Jiro struggles back to his feet, enraged. Human? Mononoke? Who cares? He yells, rejecting Kuga's attempts to objectify and categorize them. Don't go putting us in your stupid categories. With newfound resolve, Jiro declares their own identity. We are who we are, idiot, he states, looking to Rago for confirmation. Isn't that right, Rago? Kuga seems momentarily surprised by Jiro's speech, remarking that he's talking like a proper person now. Though he still finds Jiro annoying, he admits that what he said wasn't wrong, adding that he can't stand that bastard either. United, Jiro and Rago decide to end the fight. Let's give him a big one, Jiro says with a determined grin. Dark energy swirls violently, gathering around his arm for one final, massive attack. With a determined yell, Jiro unleashes his attack. A massive wave of dark, shadowy energy surges towards a shocked Kuga. The battlefield is devastated by the blast. Reiji, still on the ground, can only watch in awe, muttering, "Amazing! So this is Jiro's power." Panting heavily, Jiro stands amidst the smoke, his arms still smoldering. He glares into the dust cloud and yells, "How is that, bastard?" To Jiro's disbelief, Kuga emerges from the smoke, battered but laughing manically. "Yes, that's it," he says with a crazed look. "That's what I was waiting for." Kuga's excitement is unsettling. "It's wonderful. I want that. I need it," he states, before demanding, "Hand it over. Give me Rago. Give me that power." Meanwhile, Jiro desperately tries to recover his own energy. Suddenly, a cracking sound echoes through the area. Both Jiro and Kuga look up in surprise. Kuga realizes with annoyance that his barrier has just been broken by the agents outside. As the barrier shatters completely, Kuga creates a dark portal behind him and calmly announces, "I'm leaving." Jiro is outraged. "You're running away?" he shouts. Kuga coolly corrects him. "I'm not running away. I'm leaving." When Jiro insists it's the same thing, Kuga tells him not to get full of himself. Kuga explains that if he were to kill Jiro here, he wouldn't be able to obtain Rago, making the fight pointless. He warns Jiro that he is only letting him live for now, but he will definitely get Rago next time, threatening to tear off his limbs, eyes, and tongue. As he's about to step into the portal, Kuga pauses and asks what Jiro's name was again. Annoyed at the question, Jiro proudly shouts his full name. It's Jiro Azuma. Upon hearing the name, Azuma, Kuga's expression changes to one of shocked recognition, before breaking into a wide, knowing grin. Jiro demands to know what's so funny, but Kuga simply laughs. With a final, cryptic remark, Kuga looks at Jiro and says, "You're that guy's brat," before disappearing into the portal. Kuga vanishes, leaving a stunned and confused Jiro to process the strange comment. Just as Shiba, Ichika, and the section chief arrive on the scene, Jiro turns and walks away, lost in thought. Later, after the battle, two men in suits stand by a car at the entrance to the damaged shrine, reporting the incident over the phone. Shiba apologizes to Tokita for the mess, as forensics and a medical team are on their way. An official from a shrine states they will take responsibility for the damages. From inside the car, the section chief coldly informs Shiba that his actions resulted in 2 casualties. The section chief tells Shiba she'll accept any punishment from the higher-ups, but reminds him that she expects him to return the favor she granted him. She believes that despite the outcome, the brass will appreciate this. The section chief calls the mission foolish hindsight, but Shiba disagrees, saying it was ultimately worthless. He remarks that she hasn't changed. As he walks away, he reflects that, on the other hand, he thinks the 2 rookies passed their test. Shiba finds Jiro, Ichika, and Reiji sitting together in silence, the mood heavy with dejection. He sighs, wondering how to approach them. Shiba asks Reiji about his injuries. Reiji confirms he has no broken bones, but is lost in thought, realizing he doesn't need to imagine how weak he was. He recalls how he couldn't even move, and their surprise attack barely managed to scratch Kuga. The weight of their failure hangs over them. Reiji clenches his fist, admitting he was naive and needs to get stronger in every way. Ichika looks on, frustrated that she couldn't do anything at all and can't accept just following orders. Both Jiro and Ichika are consumed by frustration. Ichika laments that if only she had been strong enough to break the barrier or guard the entrance, things might have been different. Jiro clenches his fist, equally frustrated with his own performance. Kuga's words, "You're that guy's brat," echo in Jiro's mind, triggering a memory. He thinks of his simple family life, where his Gramps was his dad and his dog. Nachi was his mom, pointedly avoiding any thought of his actual father. Jiro reflects that he never asked about his parents, simply understanding they were probably dead and being fine with that. But the thought now makes him scream in frustration, startling Shiba. Jumping to his feet with renewed, chaotic energy, Jiro yells that he's fine with not knowing about his past. He pumps his fist and shouts, "Bring it on! Let's do it!" The others are bewildered by Jiro's sudden outburst. He rants about spy stuff and Black Torch stuff, declaring it's all a matter of spirit. Ichika and Reiji ask what's gotten into him, while an exasperated Reiji tells him to shut up and not to insult him so casually. Shiba cuts through the noise, acknowledging that spirit is certainly important. He reminds the three that they are all teammates and members of this organization now, and that no matter what happens, they need to cooperate and face it together. He continues, telling them that being a team doesn't mean they all have to think the same way. Their individual thoughts, feelings, and opinions are what make up the real source of their strength. Taking a drag from a cigarette, Shiba adds that he thinks it's fine for them to be that way, even though certain other people in the bureau might disagree with him. Shiba offers his support, promising to watch their backs if they ever feel lost or worried. He tells them to just focus on looking forward because that's what being a young brat is all about. 5 days pass since the incident at the shrine. Shiba complains about getting heavily scolded by the higher-ups and being buried in paperwork. But the team seems to have recovered, as Jiro cheerfully encourages everyone to do their best on the day's task. The team stands in a large industrial lot. Jiro questions if this is the place, and an agent confirms it is. Shiba explains that their orders are to conduct training exercises, and to help with that, they have brought in special support. He laughs, amused, as the newbies are all gathered and ready. A girl with long, wing-like pigtails suddenly leaps down from above, shouting Geronimo toward the Black Torch members gathered below. She lands with a thud, startling the group. With a wild look in her eyes, she exclaims that she's been waiting, leaving Azuma Jiro to wonder what her deal is. Carrying the girl on his shoulders, Section Chief Shiba explains that her name is Fuyo, and she is a Mononoke. He elaborates that due to rising casualties, the Bureau has started cooperating with friendly Mononoke. While Shiba argues that it makes more sense to help each other, Azuma Jiro finds the situation absurd and can't take him seriously at all. Fuyo, still on Shiba's shoulders, clarifies to Ragu that this isn't a surrender, but a gesture of good faith. Ragu, the black cat Mononoke, seems skeptical of her intentions. Ragu calls Fuyo a twerp, and she retorts that his cat form is unexpectedly adorable. As they bicker, with Fuyo calling him a mangy street cat, Ichika urges everyone to get into position and start whatever they're doing. With Ragu perched on his shoulder, Azuma Jiro announces that the day's agenda is something known as anti-aura technique training, which piques the interest of the other agents. Shiba explains that some Mononoke can use their aura to create illusions and hypnotize people. For that reason, they need Fuyo's help so the new agents can experience it in training rather than in real combat. Shiba gives Fuyo the go-ahead. She agrees and steps forward, small horns beginning to sprout from her head as she prepares to use her power. With a menacing grin and swirling eyes, Fuyo declares, "Here I come." The agents brace themselves, sensing the immense power about to be unleashed. Fuyo unleashes her technique, Thin Petal, Lotus Frenzy, creating a vortex of energy and petals that engulfs the training ground and the agents within it. As the agents are caught in the swirling attack, Shiba calmly explains that the training is simple. All they need to do is successfully break out of the technique. He wishes them good luck. A young female agent with short black hair asks Shiba if it's okay that he didn't explain anything at all, as the scene reveals the agents are now trapped inside giant, unopened lotus flowers. Shiba, taking a drag from his cigarette, replies that he wants this training to be as close to the real thing as possible. He adds that they're tough and will be fine, as two lotus flowers float calmly on the water surface. Inside the illusion, Reiji Kirihara calmly assesses his situation. He realizes he's trapped in a barrier and notes that he wouldn't be this calm during a real mission. He wonders what Shiba meant by breakout. Reiji's calm is broken when a dark, ominous gate, bound by a Shimenawa rope, materializes before him within the illusionary world. Reiji stares in disbelief as a figure begins to emerge from the darkness of the gate, their foot stepping into the light. The figure that emerges is a young man with a sword, whom Reiji recognizes instantly. Calling out, "Brother," he quickly tries to compose himself, remembering that this is just an illusion created by a Mononoke. Despite knowing it's an illusion, Reiji is forced to cross blades with the image of his brother, their swords clanging in a fierce duel. The illusion of his brother smirks, taunting Reiji by asking, "What's wrong? Is this all you've got? You still can't kill me?" "Not with this sword," as Reiji grits his teeth in frustration. The scene shifts to a memory from the past. A young man, his brother Shinji, has just been struck down. A younger Reiji stands over him, panting and wounded, having seemingly won their sparring match. In the flashback, Azuma Jiro runs towards a younger Reiji, asking if he's okay. Reiji, looking down at his brother on the ground, replies that he's fine, his eyebrow was just cut a bit. Their father, a stern-looking man with a scar on his face, approaches. He tells Shinji that it was a good match and that he's gotten much better. Shinji smiles and thanks his father, attributing his skill to his father's teachings and having a great rival in his little brother, Reiji. The father looks on, commenting that Reiji's wound might leave a scar. His father tells Reiji he put too much force into the blow, reminding him that as the eldest son, he needs to be strong. Shinji tries to comfort his brother, saying he is more than satisfied to be a stepping stone for him, a sentiment that clearly bothers Reiji. The memory continues, with Shinji cheerfully telling Reiji that he'll always be his brother. He says he's counting on Reiji to back him up if anything happens, much to Reiji's unconvinced annoyance. Reiji reflects on their relationship. After a fist bump, he recalls that while they were raised as twins without favoritism, the difference in their studies and swordsmanship became more obvious each year, with his brother surpassing him in everything. He always followed one step behind Shinji, looking up to him as a role model. Before he knew it, Reiji had given up on ever catching him, let alone winning, and resigned himself to being his brother's shadow. The flashback jumps to a fateful night. Their father announces that they will conduct the blade ceremony. He asks Shinji if he is ready, and Shinji solemnly agrees, as a worried Reiji looks on. Reiji explains the significance of the blade ceremony. It was the final ceremony in the Kirihara sword style and the succession ceremony for the head of the family, held in a cave known as the Windy Hollow where a special sword was enshrined. The sword in question was the demon sword, Yamakaze. The ceremony involved exorcising the Mononoke sealed within it. Reiji recalls that even as children, they could both discern the sinister aura emanating from the blade. At the entrance to the cave, their father warned Shinji that the Mononoke sealed within Yamakaze have lost their selves, their hatred and aura growing stronger over the years. He must be careful not to be engulfed by it. A younger Reiji tells his brother to be careful. Shinji, ever confident, just smiles and tells him to leave it to him, promising to complete the exorcism and be back before he knows it. Declaring that he will finish his task and return, Shinji Kirihara enters the dark cave. As Reiji watches, he notes that his brother did indeed emerge shortly after, just as he had promised. However, the memory takes a dark turn. Their father screams for Reiji to run, shouting that he is no match. A younger Reiji watches in horror as his brother Shinji, now completely overwhelmed and possessed by the demon sword Yamakaze, mercilessly cuts down members of their clan. His face bloodied and twisted in anguish, The possessed Shinji looks up and utters a chilling command to his younger brother. Become stronger, Reiji. Shinji's final, haunting words were a plea. Train like hell and kill me. A shocked Reiji can only watch as his brother, now a vessel for Yamakaze, turns and walks away, leaving him behind. The scene snaps back to the present, inside Fuyo's illusion. Reiji is still clashing swords with the illusion of his brother, which taunts him with disappointment. The memory of his father, shouting his brother's name, echoes in his mind. As he continues to fight, Reiji realizes that this Shinji is nothing more than an illusion created from his own memories. The more he fights it, the more he is reminded that he still doesn't understand the real Shinji's intentions. A fire is lit within Reiji. He steels his resolve, declaring that if he doesn't understand, then he'll find out for himself. With his own sword, Reiji will find the answers he seeks. He recalls Shinji's promise that they were brothers for life and that he would always back him up. Clinging to the memory of that promise and their fist bump, Reiji prepares to face the illusion of his brother one last time. As he parries the illusion strike, Reiji notes that he's never fought an illusion before, but this one was fairly well made. With a newfound clarity, Reiji sheaths his sword. Thanks to you, he says, as the illusion of his brother crumbles into dust and black flower petals before him. Back in the training area, a lotus flower blooms on the water surface. Reiji, now free from the illusion, looks on with grim determination, stating, "I feel that my eyes have been opened." The scene shifts to another illusion. This one is a gentle memory of a woman with long red hair teaching a small child how to water the roots of flowers, not the petals. The memory belongs to Ichika. Her mother asks if she wants to be a florist when she grows up, but young Ichika proudly declares she wants to be a spy, just like her mommy and daddy. As the present day, Ichika watches her own memory. Her mother warns that being a spy is a dangerous job. But young Ichika is unafraid because her parents are strong. She asks her mother if she'll be like her when she grows up. Ichika reflects on these memories of her mother. Back then, she didn't understand what spies really were. She just saw her parents as heroes who fought bad guys. The memory continues. An agent arrives to give Ichika's mother special orders. Young Ichika asks if her mom has to work, and she apologizes, flexing her arm and declaring with a bright smile that her mommy is super strong. In the illusion, Ichika watches a memory of her younger self waving goodbye to her mother, who tells her to be a good girl. Ichika reflects that it was always like this before a mission, but she never imagined it would be the last time. The memory then shifts to a somber funeral hall, with a picture of her mother displayed on an altar surrounded by white flowers. Ichika recalls that she can't remember the wake or funeral well, only the casket, which was brimming with an unbelievably pretty but ominous display of flowers. It took a long time for the fact that her mother was gone to truly sink in. After that, driven by the desire to get stronger, become a spy, and succeed her parents, Ichika just started running. The memory shows her running like crazy through the years, from morning till night. She believed that if she could just run a little faster than she did the day before, she could somehow get closer to her mother. The flashback continues. Finally, on the day after her approval to join the Bureau was finalized, a woman named Aishina-san approached a sweaty, training Ichika, stating her father had sent her. And Aishina-san explains a car is waiting and leads a confused Ichika to one of the Bureau's research facilities, leaving Ichika to wonder why her father would summon her to such a place. They descend underground into a pitch-black room. As Ichika questions where they are, and Aishina-san simply asks her to wait as the lights are turned on. As the lights flash on, Ichika shields her eyes, her expression shifting to one of utter shock and disbelief at what she sees before her. Ichika is frozen in horror. In front of her, encased in glass, is a stone statue of her mother, her face twisted in a silent scream. Stammering, Ichika asks if it's her mom, and Aishina-san confirms that it is her real mother, not a reproduction, and presents a message from Ichika's father. Her father's message begins, apologizing for keeping this secret for so many years. He explains that due to regulations, he couldn't tell anyone outside the bureau, but now that she's a spy, he can finally tell her the truth. The message reveals the devastating truth. Her mother isn't dead. She was petrified by a Mononoke's aura technique during a mission. For 10 years, they have tried and failed to reverse it, and the responsible Mononoke remains at large. Her father's message continues with his pained confession. He admits he couldn't bring himself to tell her directly, and that she might scorn him for being a terrible father and worthless spy. The message concludes, leaving the path forward entirely in Ichika's hands. What you think and do now is all up to you, Ichika. Instead of despair, Ichika is filled with a new, fierce determination. Reaching her hand toward the statue, she makes a vow. Just hold on, Mom. I will definitely return you to normal. The scene returns to the present illusion. A vision of her mother appears, begging Ichika to stop, warning that she'll become like her if she continues. The glass case from the memory begins to crack and shatter. The glass of the illusion shatters completely, revealing a monstrous, clawed shadow creature, the final obstacle in her trial. Undeterred, Ichika dashes across the water, skillfully evading the lunge of the shadowy beast. She closes the distance between herself and the illusionary monster, moving in for the final attack. With her blade poised to strike, Ichika calmly states that unfortunately for the illusion, a mere trick like this won't change her mind now. Turning back to face the creature with a look of pure resolve, she declares, "I'm not a child anymore." Back in the real world, a huge splash erupts from the water. Shiba and the others watch as Fuyo's illusion is broken, with Shiba calmly noting, "Oh, Ichika got out too." Ichika emerges from the water completely unfazed. Shiba praises her and Reiji for their excellent work, breaking out in under 5 minutes. From her lotus, Fuyo notes that now, only Jiro and Rago are left. The group turns their attention to the last remaining lotus bud. The young female agent worries that the challenge might be too much for Jiro and Rago, but Shiba, taking a drag from a cigarette, says not to worry, because those two are a special case. Fuyo explains that her lotus frenzy creates illusions based on the target's anxieties and traumatic incidents. Since Jiro and Rago are 2 souls in one, she has no idea what they will see. Shiba agrees, stating they'll just have to see how it turns out. Inside the illusion, Jiro runs in a panic, shouting that there seem to be no walls or exits. As he despairs, Rago suddenly yells for him to stop. A giant, shadowy hand crashes down right in front of him. Rago confirms they're inside the brat's technique, so the creature can't be another Mononoke, yet he has a strange feeling he's seen it before. Realizing there's no exit, Jiro complains about what a pain this is and resolves to fight. With a determined grin, Jiro tells Rago to get ready. As he calls out his partner's name, a colossal, mesmerizing beast made of pure shadow looms over them, ready for battle. Jiro faces a sudden and overwhelming assault from a massive, shadowy entity. The monster strikes with immense force, throwing the young warrior off balance. Despite being knocked back, Jiro recovers quickly, though he is clearly frustrated. The giant Mononoke looms over him, its dark presence filling the entire area. Jiro and Ragu are stunned when the creature begins to speak. It taunts them, revealing a surprising level of intelligence and speed for its size. The monster decides to reveal its true nature, unleashing a violent surge of dark energy that swirls around Jiro like a storm. Jiro is forced to retreat as the chaotic blast of darkness threatens to consume him, his face filled with shock and desperation. Nearby, Kusumi and Fuyo observe the escalating disaster. Fuyo watches with wide eyes as the dark mass continues to expand uncontrollably. Fuyo grinds her teeth, admitting that the situation has gone beyond her control. Kusumi remains calm, but focused on the growing threat. Ichika and Suzuki discuss the Lotus Frenzy, a dangerous technique that utilizes a target's own memories to trap and destroy them. As the darkness deepens, the narration warns that if the victims cannot break free on their own, they will be completely overwhelmed. The scene shifts as Jiro finds himself pulled into a memory. He stands before a quiet, traditional shrine, unsure of where he is. Gyro questions if this strange place is actually the inside of the monster's stomach as Ragu leads him deeper into the memory. They come across a massive, ancient stone pillar standing tall among the trees, radiating a mysterious aura. Ragu realizes with a grim expression that this is the Killing Stone, the very prison he was sealed within for centuries. A man from the Edo period, an unnamed villager, approaches the shrine with a look of peaceful devotion. The villager offers a prayer, his hands pressed together as he thanks the deity for the safety of his family and a successful year. Gyro watches in confusion as the man speaks of an annual tribute and the miraculous recovery of his mother's health. Gyro's eyes widen in shock when the villager addresses the black cat as Ragu-sama, realizing his partner was once worshipped as a god. Ragu grumbles about his nap being interrupted, showing that even in the past, he was quite the grumpy deity. The villager is overwhelmed with joy to see the deity in person, while Ragu remains perched arrogantly atop a stone statue. Looking up at the shrine, the man continues to speak of his gratitude, believing that Ragu's presence alone brings good fortune. He mentions rumors of demons and mononoke attacking other villages, yet their own town has remained completely untouched. Ragu sighs, insisting that he isn't intentionally protecting anyone. He just happens to like the quiet atmosphere of the shrine. Despite Ragu's cold attitude, the villager believes that just by being there, the powerful mononoke is safeguarding the entire village. The villager smiles warmly, feeling truly blessed to have such a local deity before he finally turns to head back to his work in the fields. As he leaves a humble offering behind, the man bids the deity farewell, unaware that his peaceful life is a memory Gyro is only now beginning to witness. Gyro and Ragu find themselves standing in the past, watching as a villager runs past them, completely unaware of their presence. Ragu explains that Gyro is witnessing his memories from the time before he was sealed inside the Killing Stone. Gyro realizes that the monstrous entity they fought earlier was actually a manifestation of Ragu's true, powerful form. The memory then centers on the Kyuhu era of the Edo period, a time when the 8th shogun, Tokugawa Yashimin, held absolute power. During this historical era, the relationship between humans and mononoke was complex. The creatures were either feared as demonic monsters or worshipped as local deities and mountain gods. A figure from the past arrives at the shrine to greet Ragu. It is Amagi, a powerful and refined mononoke who speaks to Ragu with the familiarity of an old friend. Gyro is surprised to learn that Ragu actually had companions in the past. Ragu admits that Amagi was one of the few mononoke he ever regarded as a true equal. As Ragu indifferently munches on a fish, Amagi gazes at the Killing Stone nearby, remarking that such objects are the natural enemies of all mononoke. He notes that Ragu always manages to find the strangest places to reside. In the present, Ragu suddenly stops speaking, causing Gyro to wonder what's wrong. Ragu explains that Amagi's voice is familiar because he heard it recently, shortly after his release. Ragu's memory flashes back to a modern tablet device. He realizes that the man he saw on the digital screen in the bright rectangle was the very same Amagi he knew centuries ago. Returning to the Edo-era memory, Amagi asks what could have brought the god of a sacred mountain to a place like this. Ragu remains silent as he eats, unimpressed by the visitor. Amagi's tone shifts to a more serious one. He informs Ragu that the humans in the area have recently begun hunting mononoke with a new, terrifying level of aggression. Ragu remains dismissive, believing that humans are merely fools who will eventually overreach and face the consequences. However, Amagi insists that this situation is different and far more dangerous. Amagi reveals that the shogunate itself is behind a systematic and ruthless purge, actively hunting every mononoke they can find across the land. Gyro listens intently, realizing the scale of the ancient conflict. The shogunate has established a secret anti-mononoke corps known as the Onawaban, recruiting lordless samurai and shinobi for the sole purpose of exterminating their kind. Amagi describes the brutality of the Anawaban, who hunt in large groups and have already slaughtered many of their friends. He is disgusted by the Mononoke, who have even been convinced to join the humans in this hunt. Ragu remains skeptical of the danger, but his indifference is challenged as a group of Amagi's hooded followers silently approaches the shrine. Amagi asks why Ragu is so uninterested in the plight of their kind. Amagi's goal is to gather powerful allies to fight back against the Anawaban. He argues that humans only fear and respect Mononoke because of their overwhelming power and the destruction they can wreak. Amagi is gathering comrades from all over the land to maintain their dominance. He extends an invitation to Ragu, but the cat deity refuses, stating firmly that he is no one's ally. Ragu makes it clear that he will not help Amagi's faction. He believes he can take care of himself and has no interest in the worldly affairs of humans or other Mononoke. Amagi's followers are outraged by Ragu's arrogance, questioning if he intends to join the humans instead. Ragu remains unmoved, dismissing the Anawaban as a problem he can handle on his own. Amagi decides to settle the matter later, promising to return the next day. Ragu tells him not to bother as the group turns to leave the shrine. Reflecting on the memory, Jiro understands that Ragu had no idea how serious Amagi truly was or the horrific events that were about to unfold. The next day, Amagi returns to the shrine just as he promised. He comments on how fertile the land is and how clear the water and air are in this peaceful village. The peace is shattered when Amagi holds up the severed head of the friendly villager who had been bringing Ragu food. With a chilling smile, Amagi remarks that the food in this village is indeed delicious. Amagi callously discards the villager's severed head, explaining that he must consume humans to fuel his strength for the coming conflict. He offers the gruesome remains to Ragu with a chilling smile, taunting his old friend's pacifism and effectively shattering their ancient bond. Overwhelmed by rage and grief, Ragu's monstrous true form manifests in a violent eruption of dark energy. Jiro and Ragu watch as the memory shifts toward a cataclysmic confrontation, with the air itself beginning to crackle under the immense pressure of their awakening power. In the peak of the memory, Amagi gathers a terrifying dark energy between his hands. The air crackles with power as he prepares a final, devastating blow against Ragu's monstrous true form. A blinding explosion of darkness erupts, tearing through the sacred mountain and the surrounding landscape. The force of the blast is so immense that it echoes across the entire region, erasing the peace that once reigned there. As the smoke clears, Jiro witnesses the aftermath of the carnage. The village is gone, leaving only ruins and the resilient killing stone standing tall amidst the scorched earth. Amagi, wounded and breathing heavily, kneels on the ground. He is forced to acknowledge the overwhelming strength of Ragu, the Black Star, who stands before him unscathed. Ragu's monstrous form looms over his former equal, letting out a dark, mocking laugh. He seems almost pleased with the destruction, reveling in the terrifying power he has unleashed. Amagi points out the grim reality. His own companions have fled after slaughtering the villagers, leaving only the two of them and the killing stone. He tells Ragu that the weight of these deaths now rests squarely on his shoulders. Ragu stares at the severed head of the villager who once considered him a god. The realization is bitter. By simply staying in the village, he became the very catalyst for its total annihilation. Amagi reaches out a hand, offering Ragu a final choice: stay and be hunted by the bloodthirsty Anawaban, or join him to destroy the human warriors together. Standing near the killing stone, Ragu's monstrous form is faced with an impossible decision. Amagi watches, confident that Ragu has nowhere else to turn. Amagi pushes further, explaining that the Anawaban will stop at nothing to claim Ragu's head after witnessing such carnage. He believes the logic is simple and that Ragu must choose a side. He reminds Ragu that the villagers were only safe because of his presence, and that in the coming war, having allies would be a luxury Ragu can no longer ignore. To Amaji's shock, Ragu stands his ground. He firmly rejects the offer, declaring that he will not follow Amaji or any other faction. With a final, chilling goodbye, Ragu prepares to leave his former comrade behind. Amaji can only watch in disbelief as the powerful Mononoke turns his back on everything. Ragu's monstrous form approaches the stone pillar. He explains that to escape the endless cycle of violence and recruitment, he chose to seal himself willingly inside the killing stone. In the present, Ragu reflects on that fateful decision. He didn't want to be a weapon for the humans or for Amaji, so he chose the only path that ensured his independence. The memory fades, and Gyro snaps Ragu back to the present. He bluntly tells the cat that making a distinction was just a fancy way of admitting he ran away from his problems. Despite his harsh words, Gyro softens. He looks at Ragu and tells him that regardless of the past, he isn't alone anymore, and it was the present Ragu who saved him. Gyro reminds him of the day they first met, the day Gyro risked his own life to save a stray black cat, without any thought of friend, foe, or species. A series of flashes show their journey together. The initial meeting, the bond they formed, and the lessons Gyro's grandfather taught him about helping others without needing a reason. Ragu admits that he was stubborn and foolish for so long, refusing to join anyone out of pride, only to realize how many things he messed up in the process. Gyro's smile returns as Ragu makes a final confession. Despite his vow to remain alone, he eventually chose to possess Gyro of all people. The moment of connection is interrupted as a massive, monstrous presence manifests behind Gyro in the dreamscape. It roars that it won't accept such a peaceful conclusion. Gyro and Ragu are jolted back to the reality of the barrier's test. They realize they still have to overcome the monstrous manifestation that represents Ragu's untapped power. The nightmare entity mocks Gyro, claiming his death will finally allow it to return to eternal sleep. Gyro narrowly evades another massive blow, his survival instincts surging as he refuses to let this twisted memory be the end of him. Ragu frantically clarifies that this monster is not his true self, but Gyro has had enough of these psychological games. As he prepares to strike back and reclaim his reality, the sheer force of his will begins to tear the fabric of the Lotus Frenzy apart. Outside the barrier, Fuyo struggles as her technique fails to respond, her frustration growing by the second. She admits with a sense of humiliation that she's lost control of the Lotus Frenzy, while Kusumi watches with a sharp, observant gaze. A sharp cracking sound echoes through the area as the massive black lotus begins to fracture. Sensing the imminent collapse, Suzuki and Ichika exchange worried glances, and Suzuki quickly orders everyone to take cover before the barrier explodes. With a violent burst of dark energy, the barrier shatters, and a massive, shadowy claw erupts from within. The agents scramble for safety as the raw power of Ragu's true form floods the room, tearing through the simulated reality. Gyro and Ragu finally emerge from the wreckage, exhausted and battered from their mental battle. Despite the chaos, Kusumi remains composed, declaring that the training session was an undeniable success as Ichika looks on with a sense of relief. As they catch their breath, Gyro and Ragu discuss the terrifying things they witnessed inside the memory. Ichika remains thoughtful, contemplating whether their breakthrough constitutes a major success or just a standard one for the Bureau. Kusumi confirms that it was indeed a great success, but his focus quickly shifts to the intelligence they gathered. He acknowledges that a Mononoke named Amaji is leading their enemies, a revelation that carries heavy implications for the team. Tapping on his phone, Kusumi smiles at the thought of finally having a wild card like Gyro on his side. He reflects that they must handle him with extreme care, for his immense power could either be their greatest asset or a tragic waste. The chapter concludes on a grim note as a news report reveals a horrific discovery. Several human heads found in a residential district, all severed with a blade. With a thick fog enveloping the area, it's clear that the real mission for the Black Torch team has only just begun. A high-ranking official addresses the public regarding a series of unnatural murder cases, his expression grim as he declares that the culprit behind such brutal deeds isn't human. Meanwhile, a news reporter notes that the police believe these incidents could be linked to a single serial killer. Watching the broadcast while casually eating, Fuyo, the mysterious childlike Mononoke, agrees with the official statement, confirming with a smirk that the old man is absolutely right. In the Black Torch office, Suzuki confirms that a Mononoke was indeed involved. Azuma Jiro, looking annoyed, tells Fuyo to stop acting so comfortable and head home now that her job is done. But the child Mononoke simply smiles back and calls him annoying. The tension continues as Ragu, in his cat form, yells at Fuyo, blaming her for almost getting him killed in today's training. Azuma Jiro's frustration peaks when he notices Fuyo eating his own shrimp crackers, even after he clearly wrote his name on the bag. The bickering is interrupted as Ichika, with her signature reddish pigtail buns, and Tokita bring in lunch for everyone. The sight of a warm meal momentarily shifts the focus as they prepare to eat. As they begin their meal, Azuma Jiro asks a heavy question. Why do Mononoke eat humans? Fuyo, still munching on regular food, seems surprised that he still doesn't know the answer. Fuyo explains that while Mononoke can eat other things, human life energy is the only thing capable of significantly increasing their power, providing a chilling reason for their predatory nature. Suzuki wipes his mouth as he reflects on Ragu's memories, realizing that the Mononoke are once again trying to build up their power, just as the mysterious figure from Ragu's past once described. The conversation is cut short as a breaking news report announces that the area around Hirosaka has been completely sealed off. Azuma Jiro watches the TV intently, his gaze sharpening as he senses trouble. Meanwhile, an outdoor cafe, Kasumi meets with Tuko Kasumi, a high-ranking blonde executive. She dismisses his latest report as worthless, reminding him that he was the one who suggested the training in the first place. Tuko Kasumi's patience is thin as she threatens to use her full authority to strip Kusumi of his position if he continues to waste her time while her hands are full with the recent murder cases. Unfazed by her threat, Kusumi casually sips his drink and mentions a Mononoke named Amagi from Ragu's past, finding the connection to recent events rather interesting. Kusumi suggests that his team could assist with the murder cases, noting that this would make them even for the previous incident at the shrine. Tuko Kusumi listens as she takes a sip of her own drink. Tuko Kusumi flatly refuses his offer, but Kusumi remains insistent, urging her to just hear him out. Kusumi reminds her that his section specializes in Mononoke-related incidents, and that his subordinates, including Ichika, have already proven themselves in both training and actual combat. He suggests that if she thinks they are too young, she's simply being overprotective. Tuko Kasumi remains silent, her sharp gaze fixed on him. Kusumi challenges her to think rationally, betting his own career on the fact that his team won't hold her back. If they prove useless, he's willing to be fired. A call from Tokita interrupts them. Tuko Kusumi answers the phone, her expression shifting as she hears the urgent news. Immediately taking charge, Tuko Kusumi orders her subordinates to prepare a cover story, cordon off the entire area, and institute a complete media blackout. Kusumi realizes something major has happened. As Kusumi watches the television, a live reporter from the scene in Hirosaka appears, confirming the escalation of the incident. Kusumi offers his help once more. The reporter on the scene describes a thick, mysterious fog that has reduced visibility to nearly zero, making operations extremely difficult for the police on the ground. Official reports claim the possibility of chemical terrorism, leading to complete blockades. However, Ichika realizes that the fog is actually a supernatural barrier. Azuma Jiro decides it's time to act since Hirosaka is close by. Determined, Azuma Jiro states that they are here precisely for times like these. If they don't act now, there's no point in them being there at all. While Suzuki and Ichika stress the importance of waiting for official orders, a restless Azuma Jiro is already looking for a way in. However, he stops short, his eyes widening as he catches sight of the sheer magnitude of the operation moving into place. A lone helicopter races toward the west, banking over the police lines as the Hirosaka incident spirals out of control. The team's first mission has officially begun, triggering a massive, calculated response from the depths of the Public Bureau. Behind the scenes of the crisis, Bureau agents are busy orchestrating a public cover-up, preparing to announce that there are no health dangers associated with the mysterious gas. They move with cold efficiency, ready to wipe memories and equipment as needed. Watching from the shadows, Gyro and his handler observe these spies in action, noting how well they fit their roles in the black-suited organization. Fuyo, the childlike Mononoke working with the Bureau, notes that it's been decades since their kind has done anything on this scale. Kusumi agrees, acknowledging that the world has changed and the Mononoke have largely retreated from public sight, leaving the Bureau to deal mostly with human affairs in the modern era. Kusumi reflects on the Bureau's evolution from a traditional Mononoke fighting force to a modern intelligence agency. He explains that there are few left with the skills to handle a direct supernatural threat, which is why the Black Torch team is making its official debut. Gyro, Ichika, and Suzuki stand ready in their tactical gear, marking the beginning of a new chapter in the Bureau's history. At the scene in Hirosaka Zone 1, Kusumi takes charge of the briefing, explaining that all roads leading into the river delta have already been blocked off as they prepare to move into the heart of the disturbance. The specifics of the barrier remains a mystery, but one thing is certain. A large number of civilians are trapped inside with the enemy Mononoke. Kusumi explains that the aura-neutralizing function of their new tactical suits should provide them with enough protection to break through a barrier of this intensity. Kusumi outlines the mission's 3 critical objectives: rescuing the civilians, dispelling the mysterious barrier, and ultimately neutralizing and capturing the enemy forces. He's convinced that the Mononoke Amagi is behind the incident, noting the similarities to the ceiling of Shrine 7. Kusumi confirms that Gyro, Ichika, Suzuki will be the ones infiltrating the area while he provides direction from outside. However, the barrier's ability to block all wireless and wired communication poses a problem, one that the young Mononoke Fuyo claims she can easily handle. Fuyo reveals a handful of lotus petals, telling the team that each one can relay messages back to her central lotus flower telepathically through her aura. The agents are hesitant, especially when they realize they have to actually swallow the petals to establish the link. Ichika and Gyro are clearly reluctant, but Suzuki tries to remain professional as Fuyo barks at them to stop being ungrateful. With the petals swallowed and the link established, Kusumi ends the briefing. He tells the team to proceed at their own discretion, promising to provide support from their side if needed. The mission is finally underway. Ichika, Suzuki, and Gyro share a look of grim determination as they prepare to step into the unknown. There's no turning back now. The time has come to get started and face the threat lurking within Hirosaka. High above on a street clock, Naruko, the cat-like Mononoke with long black hair and horns, senses their approach. She notes that 3 humans are coming, finding the number fewer than she had expected for the Bureau's counterattack. In the street below, an older man looks on with a weary expression. Near the entrance, the massive and brutal Rorin sits atop a car, surrounded by the horrific trophies of his earlier feast, the severed heads of civilians. He's unimpressed by the incoming agents, feeling the Bureau shouldn't have bothered banding together if this small group is all they have to offer. Naruko watches the conversation from her perch as Rorin asks if she brought more food. Standing nearby with a black flag, Kitsune, clad in a white jacket and gas mask, complains about the tediousness of gathering and controlling the humans alive. He's clearly more interested in the main task at hand than playing warden to their food. The 2 Mononoke discuss their grisly eating habits. Rorin argues that humans must be eaten fresh to maximize the gain of their life energy, while Kitsune chides him for his messy habit of leaving severed heads scattered around, calling it bad table manners. Rorin simply snaps back, claiming the skulls are too hard to eat anyway. The mind control over the civilians isn't perfect, as evidenced by a young girl crying out for her mother. Naruko notes that their power is less effective on children with undeveloped brains, and Roran finds the noise from the crying brat to be extremely irritating. Roran reaches out, deciding the crying girl will make a fine post-lunch snack. However, Naruko interrupts him, realizing she made a mistake in her earlier count of the intruders. Naruko narrows her eyes as she focuses her senses on the incoming group. She realizes that it's not just 3 humans approaching. There's something else with them, something much more significant. Roran's face contorts into a predatory grin as he realizes the truth. The extra presence is Ragu, the legendary cat Mononoke they've been searching for. One cat, he growls, his excitement for a real fight finally building. A wave of brutal bloodlust washes over Roran as he prepares to go all out. He's been waiting for the chance to unleash his full power, and now that Ragu has finally come, the time has arrived for a true slaughter. Kitsune tries to remind Roran of their orders to capture the targets alive if possible, but Roran is past the point of following rules. He's only interested in one thing, demanding to know from Naruko which direction Ragu is approaching from. Naruko, however, is silent. To Kitsune's immense frustration, Naruko has already fallen asleep on top of the street clock. He rants about being surrounded by useless idiots, while Naruko continues to snore, completely uninterested in Roran's violent enthusiasm. He scolds Roran for picking at his food, but the giant Mononoke is too focused on the fight to care. From the shadows, a hooded figure calmly addresses the concerns about Ragu reaching Naruko. He claims he's already prepared a suitable bodyguard for this exact situation and isn't worried at all about the intruders interfering with the barrier. Roran orders Kitsune to stay behind and continue gathering food while he goes out to meet their guests. When Kitsune asks where he's going, Roran's intent is obvious as he storms off into the fog with a violent purpose. Roran's bloodlust is absolute as he declares his savage intention to tear the intruder apart. Kitsune can only sigh, reminding his comrade that the boss gave strict orders not to kill the target, but Roran has already vanished into the thick fog, consumed by a singular desire to crush Ragu once and for all. While the Mononoke prepare for war, the scene shifts to the quiet, fog-shrouded streets where a lone post box stands as a silent witness to the impending clash. Having just slipped past the outer perimeter, the Black Torch team begins their descent into the heart of Hirosaka, unaware of the monstrous force already moving to intercept them. Having successfully breached the Hirosaka barrier, Azuma, Gyro, Ichika, and Suzuki prepare to navigate the fog-shrouded streets. Gyro checks his equipment as they confirm that the infiltration went smoothly, but the real challenge is just beginning. As they move deeper into the city, the haunting silence of the empty shops and deserted streets weighs heavily on them. Gyro observes that the situation is far more dire than he had initially anticipated, with the once vibrant district now feeling like a ghost town. The horror of the situation becomes clear when they find civilians slumped against walls, unresponsive like corpses. Gyro tries to wake one, but Suzuki explains that they are under a powerful aura control. If they aren't rescued quickly, the mental damage could be permanent. Time is running out for the people of Hirosaka. Faced with a vast search area, Suzuki suggests splitting up to find the controller. Amidst their contemplation, a faint Naya echoes through the air. Ragu has finally decided to stir, sensing the same unsettling atmosphere. Ragu manifests on Gyro's head, much to the boy's annoyance. The Mononoke cat yawns, complaining about the terrible smell of the mixed auras in the air. Ichika realizes Ragu's potential, suggesting he can serve as a biological radar to pinpoint their enemies. Ragu senses 4 distinct enemy signatures, catching Suzuki and Ichika off guard as they only expected 3. Despite the bickering between Gyro and the blockhead cat, the team realizes the complexity of the threat they're facing within the barrier. The enemy roster is laid out. 1 maintains the barrier, 1 controls the townspeople, and 2 others possess exceptionally powerful auras. Ragu confirms that 4 Mononoke are orchestrating this chaos, setting the stage for multiple confrontations. Knowing the enemy's numbers gives Gyro some confidence, but the need to split up remains. His thoughts are interrupted by the chatter of a crow, which finds the sleeping humans to be a perfect, albeit strange, opportunity for an easy meal. To the surprise of his teammates, Gyro initiates a conversation with the crows scavenging nearby. He listens intently as the birds boast about eating their fill while the humans are incapacitated, showcasing his unique ability to communicate with the animal world. Ichika and Suzuki watch in disbelief as Gyro casually converses with the scavengers. Squatting down, he offers the crows canned fish as a reward for their information, treating the surreal scene as if it were an idyllic, everyday occurrence. Gyro thanks his feathered informants, who were delighted by the unexpected treat. The crows confirm the locations. 2 enemies are at the northern intersection, and 2 others are at the Central Park. Armed with this intel, Gyro decides it's time to split the team into 2 groups. As the team finalizes their plan to split up, Suzuki agrees to head to the intersection with Ichika, while Gyro and Ragu take the park. Suzuki promises to back them up as soon as they finish their part, but Gyro's intuition tells him a direct confrontation is imminent. A sudden, massive impact shatters the ground right in front of them. The team recoils in shock as a towering, demonic figure emerges from the dust. Roran has arrived, cutting off their path before they could even begin to separate. Roran stands as a massive wall of muscle and menace, his arms crossed as he stares down the small band of humans. The Black Torch team quickly shifts into combat stances, the weight of the giant Mononoke's presence nearly suffocating in the narrow street. Ragu narrows his eyes, sensing the sheer malice emanating from the giant. Roran, meanwhile, can't hide his predatory delight, a wicked grin spreading across his face as he finally comes face to face with the host of the legendary cat. Realizing Roran is far beyond a standard threat, Gyro immediately changes the plan. He orders Ichika and Suzuki to split up and head for the other locations, while he and Ragu take on this monstrous opponent alone to keep the others safe. Gyro's eyes are fixed on the grinning Roran. He knows this isn't just about their survival. He must deal with this giant here and now to prevent even more civilian casualties. The battle for Hirosaka is about to truly ignite. Ichika protests, wanting to fight as a team, but Gyro is resolute. He knows Roran's target is him and Ragu, and every second they waste is a second closer to death for the townspeople. With a final command, he tells them to go. As Ichika and Suzuki run off with heavy hearts, they look back at Gyro, who stands his ground against the looming giant. Roran chuckles at the boy's bravery, relishing the prospect of an uninterrupted duel. Roran mocks Gyro's choice for a one-on-one fight, having expected humans to hide behind numbers. Gyro, with Ragu's black aura swirling around him, shuts down the trash talk. He's not here for games. He wants Roran to bring his absolute best. At the park, Ichika comes face-to-face with Kitsune, the gas-masked Mononoke. Demanding the release of the mind control technique, she is met with a cold refusal. The time for words has passed. Ichika draws her blade, ready to fight for the lives of the townspeople. Suzuki finds himself at the other location, observing Naruko fast asleep on her clock tower perch. He considers it a lucky break, but his focus soon shifts to the sinister Amagi, who stands with a massive, wrapped weapon. Suzuki offers a final chance to surrender, but Amagi's malevolent grin suggests that peace was never an option. The three-front war has officially begun. As Suzuki stands ready against Amagi, the fate of Hirosaka hangs in the balance. Each member of the Black Torch team must now overcome their own deadly opponent if they hope to see tomorrow.